Hey, welcome to Apollo City Comics, and I'm Brandon.
And I'm David.
And today we're exploring, honestly, one of my favorite books in the history of the world. And I've come back to it over and over again as I've grown up, and I just enjoy it that much more. We're doing Kingdom Come, which is the parallel to essentially his Marvels and Alex Ross's Earth X work. It's just his DC version of that in that sense.
I don't know if I'd say that this has anything to do with Earth X. I see more of a comparison to Marvels as far as like scope goes, and limited series. And even then, Marvels is a pretty different story. It's more of like a retelling, whereas Kingdom Come is like I don't know. It's like the addendum or something. It's the Book of Revelations.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great thing they included into that too. It mixes so well. Well, I just say it's the mixture of the two because you have Alex Ross doing the full artwork for everything.
Okay.
Doing his full contribution to the DC universe because there's all the lineage from like the other characters, which also blends into Earth X, how we had the sons and daughters of everyone and that dystopian future type of thing.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying there.
Mm-hmm. And essentially, like, Marvels was good. Really enjoyed that book. It's great.
Yeah.
Gorgeous stuff. Earth X, didn't pull it off as well as...
I don't think so.
But I feel like this was the successor of all of that. This was like the trial and error, and this came out on top of everything else.
That's interesting. I think I would put this behind Marvels.
Oh, really?
I think Marvels was a better book. But this is really good. I mean, in no way is this as angering as Earth X was. What a tremendous waste of time Earth X is. No, this book's a lot better, I think. But I'm sure we'll get into that as we discuss the episode. But first, I do need to just make a point to call you just a liar on the entire channel. The end of the last episode, you're like, oh, Kingdom Come. No, there's not a lot of people in that. It's just the Justice League. And then you read Kingdom Come and it's like...
I just said that so you could read the book.
That's what that's called lying, Brandon. That's what that is. That's called being a liar. So I'll have that recording for the end of time.
Yeah, it's fine. I just had to get you to read something.
Ugh. Good though. Much better after reading Earth X. For sure.
Oh yeah. Mark Waid, his knowledge of pretty much any of the DC or Marvel universes is just so broad and crisp, and it's at sometimes annoying too, because there's characters that you don't want to see in there, like Captain Comet. Captain Comet only is mentioned because Mark Waid is a huge fan. But there's also some other really embarrassing things that are in there. That's all on Alex Ross too. From what I understand, Mark Waid had all full input of like the main characters that were inside of it, but pretty much all the backgrounds, that's all Alex Ross. All the little hints and the nudges and like the nods to different things, that's pure Alex Ross, which is understandable after reading Marvels and after reading Earth X. But it's kind of the combination of both of them that make it such a thick and dense piece, but it's all because visually it's dense.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this book and definitely in Earth X, that the art maybe surpasses the storytelling. I mean, this book has a pretty strong storyline, I'd say, but the art is definitely the key part of all of these books.
Yeah.
It's like this book with just any other artist, just like an average comic attempt, I don't think wouldn't be as memorable for sure.
No, not at all. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it took Alex's like mighty brushstroke to make this feel as epic and holy as they kind of try to make it be at that point.
Which I think is interesting because there's not a lot of mediums where the overall product can be, put so much on two people. Like you watch a movie and sure you have a director's cinematography and everything, but it feels more cohesive. Whereas in a comic book, sometimes you can say, the story's kind of lame, but the art is really awesome. And that's enough to read it. There's not a lot of times where you can say to a movie like, oh, that movie's terrible and it's written so poorly, but it looks so good, so let's just watch it. Like usually those things don't go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, completely.
I think that's kind of interesting. That's like very particular to comic books. The music's not that way or anything like that. But man, whew, just the beginning of the book, and you got to talk about the covers too, because every cover is just like a huge combination of DC characters, and issue 2 particularly is like really famous.
Oh yeah,
I've seen that image so many times.
yeah.
Um,
Well, and this book has, I mean, it's over 20 years old, and we're still
mhm.
seeing callbacks to it. I mean, the Crisis on Infinite Earths, that crossover, it was huge because they had the Kingdom Come Superman, like with his
Yeah,
chest logo, and then they had the Kingdom Come Batman in it, which was really interesting.
yeah.
Kevin Conroy.
I was gonna say when I was reading this, because you do get Batman, since it's in the future, everyone's old, and Batman has this like power suit, like an exoskeleton suit that he has on. And yeah, I was like, that looks like the clip of Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy that I watched
That's why it was just,
from that awful show. But that's what
I know, yeah.
yeah.
I still haven't seen that crossover at all. It's
I just watched the clips. I think I'm still
Yeah.
maintaining that point, man. I don't think
Just
it's
gotta
worth
hold on to
watching
that
the whole
part.
thing.
Yeah, you really just want to watch it to see those little nods to this type of stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Gosh, before I say anything else, because I know I'll forget to later on, one of my favorite things, speaking of Batman, is the contrast between him and Superman in this book. We don't have like a straight-faced, stern Batman. We have a smiling Batman, and then we have a straight-faced, stern Superman. Their roles have kind of reversed because of their old age and their outlook on the world around them.
That is interesting. I don't know if I'd call Batman smiling in this book, though. He's like working with Lex Luthor. He definitely is snarky. He's like snarkier than we've ever seen Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He's really ready to be like holier than thou when Superman comes asking him for help. But at the end though, I think they kind of play the same sort of Batman they always play, like the broken and alone Bruce. That's how it always ends up. You know what I mean? Whenever they go into the future, it's always this isolated, grumpy old man who's like hates the world because he basically gave it all up to be Batman. But in this one, it seems like he's doing better, if anything else. Yeah. He's basically like controlled all of Gotham through this like military police force.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting what they do with Batman.
And we'll get into that as we go into issue 1. There's so much to talk about. I think the first 2 or 3 issues have the densest part, and the rest kind of just falls into place with it. But there's so much to point out.
Last issue, yeah.
Yeah. Well, first off, I want to ask you, because it was one of the biggest things that people get mixed up with page 1. There's a bat, and then there's the eagle with the American flag on it. And who do you think that represents?
Ooh, well, the bat you would assume would be Batman, given the obvious symbology. But I don't know. As far as the eagle, I guess it would be Superman. You would think, being him, the patriotic thing of justice. But you know what? Probably should just look at this one more time, because it might mean something different after you've read the whole book. Well, who is it? Who is the eagle supposed to be?
It's Wonder Woman. It's actually just foreshadowing for the final battle with Batman versus Wonder Woman. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And everyone assumed, even I assumed when I first read it, was like, it's the typical Batman Superman fight that we always get. It's the one fight that everyone does. But I don't know when else we've had Batman versus Wonder Woman,
So where are you getting this from, though, that this is supposed to be Wonder Woman? Is this something that's been like definitively stated or something like that?
Yeah. My copy is the 20th anniversary edition. So it's all these interviews with Alex Ross and Mark Waid.
Interesting.
And that's like one of the things they point out is that, everyone was thrown off because that's what they thought they were getting. It was going to lead up to Batman versus Superman, like always, like in Dark Knight and all that. But it's actually the Wonder Woman call. It's the foreshadowing for that battle. And I was like, that's cool. I thought that was
interesting.
Something we don't get maybe enough. We always get the same repeated thing.
Well, I think it's weird that you would label Wonder Woman as a patriotic symbol, because she so often really doesn't care about like the U.S. government. Like, her storyline always comes down to, well, I'm from Amazonia.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really all I care about.
And I think that's the cool part about it, is that you don't expect that. That's exactly it.
That is a nice touch.
It wasn't until I finished and I read the back notes that I was like, oh, that makes sense. And even on the second page, there's so many calls to, let me see. The second paint, I love this painting too. It's just epic. It's very godly in that sense. But there's a lot of things going on here. Like the angel in the background. Um, Let me see. The red lightning represents the Flash. The green flame represents the Green Lantern. The large female figure with a spear and a male archer figure represents the warring forces of Wonder Woman and Batman. The hand holding the lightning bolt represents Captain Marvel, and the angel is, of course, Superman.
Mm.
Which is, it's so much kind of hidden into this one painting, you know?
Yeah, but there's a lot there.
But we kick off the book from there. Oh, actually, I don't know if you know this, but do you recognize the pastor from Marvels?
Oh, was he in Marvels?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
when was he in Marvels?
he was on issue 4, I think, for maybe 1 or 2 panels, but he is in there. And that's actually Alex Ross's dad.
Oh, it's interesting. I
Yeah.
thought he looked a lot like Stan Lee, especially at the beginning.
I never thought that's true.
But
I never
it's
thought
funny
about that.
because the reporter shows up in this one. The reporter from Marvels is in this book in the
Oh, is
last
he?
issue. Yeah, he's in the last like couple panels of Kingdom Come. I'll
Oh,
point
you
it
got
out
to
when we
point
get
that out.
there.
Yeah, I did not know
Yeah.
that.
So that's kind of funny.
What?
That he's got this crossover between the two of them.
Yeah, all of his work, and I'm noticing that more once we read a lot of one artist, is that you see the callbacks throughout their entire career.
Mhm.
They kind of keep with one thing, and they try to kind of revamp it every single time. Grant Morrison does that like crazy with his heroes and villains. Well, we start off with a man in a hospital, and it turns out to be the original Sandman from the Justice League, Justice Society of America. And then we have it's Wesley Dodds. Oh yeah, Wesley Dodds. That's his name. And everyone thinks he's senile because he's seeing visions and he can't contain them, and he's trying to warn everybody. But speaking to a pastor, he just feels like he's speaking about death and enduring the end at that point. And I mean, even as a kid, I didn't know who that character was because I wasn't big on Justice Society. It hasn't been like a team that's been around enough for everybody to know who they are.
Yeah.
So it's a little confusing at first, but it's interesting because you start off with a Watchmen funeral right at the beginning.
Yeah, I guess so, right? It is pretty much that. And then there's like a quick shot of this like newspaper. Will censures curb metahuman violence? And I just want to point out that pie chart looks like Pac-Man.
Oh, it does.
It's like yellow, and his mouth is exactly the right size.
Well, on the next page, there's 2 Watchmen homages over here too. The graffiti, the red one says who watches the Watchmen. And then we have the Under the Hood Hollis Mason book.
Oh, I didn't see the Hollis Mason book.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
And we're kind of
weird.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and let's hit a reference. And then we get Planet Krypton, which is like the Hard Rock Cafe of this universe. I
was thinking Planet Hollywood. Do you ever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they, well, it's like the same place too, right?
Yeah.
It's like a ritzy Applebee's.
Yeah.
But basically they have this place where everyone dresses up very much actually like the Jackrabbit Slims in Pulp Fiction when they go to that restaurant and everyone's
oh my
like,
gosh,
oh, I'm Buddy Holly. You know what I mean? It's that,
Yeah.
but everyone's Wonder Woman or Green Lantern or whatever. And I think it's kind of cool that they bring back this spot in the last issue because I just thought it's a funny background scene.
Yeah, and it's
that kind of thing.
We'll talk about it more in the last scene because the last scene has so many cool things in the background. But that's the fun part about this one is that you have Batman #1 over here. We have the Golden Age Flash, Green Lantern, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman, that Super Friends Aquaman, the Batman 66 suit in the background with all these ridiculous gadgets and the old planes and everything. It's a joy to look at.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little details in this.
And even on the next page, well, while we're following the pastor through everything, he's basically talking about how bad the faith is now because the world has changed.
Yeah.
And he's trying to look at it from his point of view from being a pastor, but it's hard because the kids nowadays are so much different. And we're finding out that there's a whole new, just kind of like Earth X, a whole new like uprising of new superheroes that don't know how to contain or act.
Yeah, and then we get that immediately in the scene where with something that's almost exactly in Earth X, like these just the fight in the street of all these characters that no one really cares about. And I don't know how many of them are like actual characters? I'm sure they all are, right? Like these all have to be people from somewhere.
No, not
Or
at all.
are they made up for this book?
They are made up for this book.
Oh, okay.
Like
Well, that's kind of cool.
99% of them. And the thing is, what they were doing with this is that in 1996, this was still the 90s of comic books, and they were upset with the direction of that extreme, that Rob Liefeld type of young blood look for everything, and how oversized and unhumane all these characters were. That's what they're making fun of. They're literally just making fun of all these outrageous creations, and how the younger, generation at this point didn't know about honor and justice and what it meant to be a superhero.
That's interesting. Yeah, because the superheroes basically take the same parallels the pastor's feeling that the world has changed, but I'm not ready to change my ways, and everything should kind of go back to how it was.
Yeah.
They kind of share that same mentality. That's kind of cool that all these characters are nobodies then, because a lot of them, their designs are pretty boring, but it really does criticize 90s comics pretty effectively. They look like they could be off any Image book. Like all of these random weird characters. One of them looks very H.R. Geiger. And I was like, I wonder if that's a real character. They look like
that's exactly what it's based off of. I was just gonna say
that's so funny.
Geiger's work, yeah.
Yeah, it's very H.R. Geiger.
I think Magog, yeah. I think he's the only one that actually remained in continuity past this.
Oh, so he was a Magog, or however you say his name. Yeah. He was new to this book as well, then.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But you have characters like America Mando, who is just like this extreme. What's the character from Dexter's Laboratory, the Justice League?
Oh,
he looks like an extreme version of
he does.
Guy. Like the way he
which is really just a Captain America knockoff too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember his name. I remember it was like Incredulous something or something like that.
Something like that.
And then they had the Van Halen guy, and I can't remember what his name was either. That was such a funny little short.
I love that. I love that little short.
Yeah, that was always a good time. Major Glory.
Major Glory. That's I think that
Major
was
Glory. Yeah.
I think on this first page we have a character called Minotaur, which is just like a combination of old school myths to like a modern superhero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's some other really hilarious ones that we'll point out, but this guy with his 666, that's his name. The one that's on the floor, that double page spread.
Oh, yeah.
And he has like his nipples pierced. So what's funny about him, besides him being absolutely ridiculous looking, is that he is based off of Brian Azzarello.
Really?
Yeah. And I hate this character, and I hate Brian Azzarello.
Oh, that's perfect. And it was around this point in the book too where I was like, man, I hate Brandon. He's just lying to me.
Yeah.
And our trust is broken forever. Like I'm never going to just say yes to anything ever again. Because this book is just like vomiting on the page. But at this point, I think that is the purpose. We're all supposed to be kind of uncomfortable and not know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
Like that is the viewer's, perception here.
Yeah.
Or the reader, I should say, not the viewer. Well, then we get some stuff. He goes back to his church. He's talking to his congregation, everything.
And he's just frustrated. He's like talking about revelations, and it freaks everyone out.
Yeah, but he's totally right. And then we get like basically the big storyteller of this book.
The watcher of this book.
Yeah, the watcher of this book. And this is, what is his name? It's not Vision, is it? It's
the Spectre.
Spectre, there we go. Vision's another comic book character, but the Spectre essentially they do a Christmas Carol.
Yeah, direct call to that. Yeah,
because the last one, Earth X, was so much like It's a Wonderful Life, and this one is straight up Charles Dickens.
Yep.
So they just took these two like really old Christmas stories and somehow made a comic book about them. But basically, the Spectre guy is going to take this man with him. And he tells him that something is coming in the future, very Dr. Manhattan, and that he's ultimately going to be the one to like decide what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which kind of doesn't happen also. Like they don't interfere at all. And he doesn't even make a decision, which I think is interesting. Because this whole person's point is to observe all of this book. It's all told from these two guys' perspective. They observe all these things going on. And then he's supposed to weigh down the moral hammer.
Yeah.
And instead, it kind of doesn't happen. That just ends unfulfilled, which was one thing that I thought was interesting as far as the setup goes.
Well, it wasn't their decision to make.
What was the whole point then? You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's the realization that like, no, you guys aren't in control. You guys shouldn't be in control of such a big and heavy burden. of
Then what is
making that choice.
I get that's the decision they went with, but then what does Spectre do then?
Well, Spectre typically, he's the one that if someone, I mean, I don't know too much about his character. I haven't even read any Spectre comments. I know there's a good run by Kelly Jones, but I've never looked into it. I've
Hmm.
only seen him as a spectator, essentially, you know?
Yeah.
But from what I understand is that if there's a murder and someone goes through and justice isn't served at that point, he's the
Okay.
deciding factor. So they're kind of just
Hmm.
spinning off of like how bad he is to be chosen, you know? Because he's also a very, from what I know from other comics, is that he's real brutal on his choices, like real inhumane, real heartless. Like he will just slaughter somebody at that point because they committed a crime or did something, you know? But
Yeah.
it's putting too much power in this one person's hand. And it's saying that even in the book they mention it is that he was a hero in the 40s and somewhere his whole morality just changed and his whole, scope of what his job was had changed.
Interesting. Okay. So he's kind of like what Superman is on the path to becoming.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
I just think it's interesting because I feel like these characters don't get an arc then. They're basically there for the whole time. And there are narrators and the people are telling us the story.
Yeah.
They interact with the characters in the story. But then ultimately they don't really do anything. I guess the biggest thing is the pastor does talk to Superman at the end. Which would be a big
after observing. I mean, it's one of those things. It's having. This is the third book in a row that we've had an observer role.
Yeah,
and I think that's their point. Is just to like they're just there to help the story in a storytelling way. It's kind of they don't really have a reason other than that, you know.
In the other two books, though, that is put up very plainly at the beginning. And in this book, they're making it sound like he's going to have a pivotal decision to make. Mm-hmm. Where the decision's not really made, or at least not in that moment. But maybe that's just the way things work sometimes.
He had to work in his dad.
Particularly Spectre, though, doesn't really do anything. I mean, the pastor's more useful than him. But see, and then again, I was like, is Spectre a new person? Is he a Charles Dickens character? I wasn't sure about that. But it is kind of cool because it lets us hop around. And it hops around pretty fast, actually. They go to the Superman farm, the old Kent farm,
or what looks like the Kent farm.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
yeah.
Because this first one's a hologram, right? It's like in the. Are they in the Fortress of Solitude? I'm assuming they are.
Yeah. I think in the next page they reveal that.
I was like, where else would they be? But Superman is working a virtual farm.
Yeah. He's kind of just trying to bring back what he knew and what he was.
Yeah.
He exiled himself and now he's just kind of keeping busy by taking care of all this stuff.
And we don't know what the exile is yet or why he's exiled. We know that Lois Lane is dead.
Right.
We know the parents are dead. But we don't know what the cause of it is or the event that changed Superman. But now he's basically pulling a Batman.
Yeah.
And he's hermiting himself and Wonder Woman comes to ask for help. Because since they've been gone, the world has spiraled into chaos. There's all these superhumans or metahumans or whatever you want to call them, and they're fighting. And then we have good old Magog in this fight where a character named Parasite attacks, what's this guy's name? Captain Atom. And he splits Captain Atom. And we all know what happens when you split an atom, everyone.
Yep.
Bomb explodes and millions of people die. And it's like a giant hit to agriculture because now all these animals have died and the world's not going to have enough food and everyone's going to starve to death, which is even worse.
Exactly. Real fast on that Superman farm. There's the one panel where he's carrying the tractor. There's like 7 homages in this one farm. Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. This one panel. It's funny because the green tractor is for Action Comics #1, and homage to the green car. His pose is the similar one of Superman in the sky on Superman #1. They reuse that image a lot, and all these animals. This is ridiculous. It's all from the Golden and Silver Age, but it's the Legion of Super Pets. From the left, you have Streaky the Super Cat, Beepo the Super Monkey, Comet the Super Horse, and Crypto the Super Dog. And it's just one of those ridiculous things that
That is
Alex Ross put
so
in there.
that is so ridiculous.
And
Wow.
I had to really look at it because I couldn't find the monkey at first, and I couldn't find the cat at first, but it's in there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I see him.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah, all those ridiculous characters. And then his he actually has Batman's T-Rex inside of the Fortress of Solitude as well.
Again, he's stolen the T-Rex.
Yeah.
This happened last time we were during Red Sun, when
Yeah.
he's also kind of like an authoritarian leader,
Mhm.
which I noticed there was a lot of similarities between those two books. I mean, obviously this one was probably the inspiration for some
Yeah.
of Red Sun. But yeah, that's funny. He
Super
just likes
funny.
to steal from Superman, or he likes to steal from Batman whenever he gets a chance.
The
it's really
heaviest
pretty
thing
rude.
he can.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I think we've talked about it before, but I was just thinking back at it. But Captain Atom is the reflection character of Dr. Manhattan. He's the man of the atom.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
see
so
that.
that's where his importance always kind of pops up from. I was thinking back at it after I heard the Deceased episode again, and I was like, why is he so important? But it does carry into bigger things. I think if it wasn't for Watchmen, Captain Atom wouldn't have much of a future. But they just bring him back to highlight that aspect, I think.
What happens next? We get a little bit of this, like, well, he turns Wonder Woman down at first, doesn't he, when she comes to ask for help?
Yes, he doesn't want anything to do with anything.
Yeah, he's done being in the world. And then this is actually one of the parts, this was like my favorite part of the first issue. We have just each character gets one page.
Yeah, where are they now?
Yeah, where are they now? Like, let's catch up with the crew. Flash looks interesting in this book, I think. His designs, especially because you never get a good like picture of him, I feel like.
Yeah,
he's always running in this book.
Always in movement. And he's adapted that Jay Garrick kind of helmet to call to, like, the Olympian gods and everything.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's cool. I love that he's always in motion, because I think that's the way the Flash should be at some point, just always running everywhere. But also it's the Wally West Flash. It's not Barry Allen. It's not Kid Flash or whoever else. I always forget the other Flash's names, or Jay Garrick. It's none of them. It's the Wally West. So I think that's pretty cool in itself.
I couldn't tell you three things different about each Flash.
Well, Wally West is the one that most people know because he's
the
Justice
oldest
League.
one, right?
No, Barry is. Barry's the one that died on Crisis on Infinite Earths. But Wally, he's the one that we always see in the Justice League cartoon.
Oh, okay. Then that's probably the one I'm most familiar with.
Yeah. Just like with
most
the Green
of the
Lanterns,
Justice League I know.
I think you're more familiar with John Stewart than probably anyone else, right?
Well, I feel like I saw a lot of Hal for a long time. But then John Stewart is the Justice League one.
Yeah.
I don't know where else I would have seen Green Lantern. Maybe a video game or something. I don't.
I don't know if you're familiar with like Kyle Rayner. The cool one. I think
so.
He's the one he's an artist, and he actually, all his constructs are super like anime, like mecha, like super. They're actually really awesome constructs compared to the baseball glove and all that.
Is Hal the one in Justice Friends, or what was that first one called? The old 60s
Super Friends
cartoon, Super Friends.
Yeah,
is that Hal?
That's Hal. Yeah.
Okay. Because I watched that show a lot when I was a kid. I used to watch a lot of really old cartoons. I wouldn't want to watch them now, but
oh no. Well, do you remember like Marvin and Mindy and those characters and the Super Twins?
Yeah.
Did you see them in this book?
I don't know. I probably missed them, to be honest. Okay.
Well, and one of them, I didn't know it was Marvin until I looked at the annotations.
Oh, and so the annotated version sounds pretty nice. Just to be like, okay, here's who all these.
Oh yeah, this is the first time I've really read it and reflected to the annotations, and it just cleared up so much. Well, then we go over to Hawkman.
Just a quick rant. Who cares about Hawkman? Like, everyone gives Aquaman a hard time, but Hawkman is so unimportant that he doesn't even get hate. That's how unimportant he is.
I could not agree with you more. Like, even when a Hawkman series comes out, it looks remotely interesting, but then I'm just like, I'm not gonna pay for that though. Like,
I'm not gonna read Hawkman. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And then
in there. They
put this thing in here about him being like an environmental terrorist, like considered that to some people because he's such a protector of the environment. I
never got that from Hawkman previously.
I've never heard anything like that about Hawkman. But again, I know very little about Hawkman.
What I know about Hawkman is that he is from like Egyptian times. Him and Shayera. I know.
What? I didn't
Well,
know this.
him and Hot Girl Shayera, and apparently they keep on. They'll die and become resurrected, and die and become resurrected. So they live through generations, but they always like don't know who they are, and they find and they're reconnected every single lifetime. It's kind of a messy thing that I've never found, and it goes into like different nth metal and all this other stuff, and I just haven't.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hot Girl is only cool because the Justice League cartoon.
Yeah, and even then, it's like a character that looks pretty cool and fights a little bit, but
That's about
I,
it.
I don't know much else about them. They just they're like C tier Justice League members, which is
Oh
funny.
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman are at the top, and then it's like B tiers like Martian Manhunter and Flash and maybe Green Lantern. He's somewhere in between those two. And then C is like all these people who you wouldn't miss if they were, here.
If they weren't
But
included in it.
I mean, they're part of the team though, so you got to give them something. We get Green Lantern. He's living in his Dr. Manhattan crystal
And this is
castle
actually
thing in the sky.
This is I thought this was interesting because you have the Golden Age Green Lantern here. It's Alan Scott. It's not Hal or anyone else, Greg Gardner, Kyle, anybody. But they went back.
There's a lot of Golden Age stuff in here. Oh, sorry. What's up?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're completely a lot of Golden Age stuff. And I guess he's just become. I mean, you remember him from the Doomsday Clock thing. He instead of having that lantern as his power source, because he never really had a ring from the Guardians of Oa, he's always just had that lantern. He's now turned that lantern into his armor, which is kind of funny because it's real round looking and kind of like makes him look like he has a big old belly under there.
Yeah, it's not very flattering.
No, not at all. But he's constructed the city just to watch over stuff. But then I wonder, like, who's in the city? It looks massive.
That is huge. Yeah, you would think
there's like towers in there.
Yeah, that is weird.
It's very what is it? Wizard of Oz looking.
Yeah, it does. Very Emerald City, especially the top part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The top part of that thing. They go over. There's like some Atlantis stuff. I think, is that Wonder Woman's thing?
The mascara, yeah.
The mascara, and then there's some kind of futuristic place where I guess some people just left.
So that's the Legion of Superheroes. That's the heroes
like
of the
Supergirl
30th,
and everything, right?
Yeah, the 30th century superheroes. Which I've never been into the Legion of Superheroes until Brian Bendis's current run. It's only on issue like 5 or something.
Okay.
But this is the first incarnation that I've jumped on board for, because it's one of those super teams that beloved like writers and artists adore, but I just have not found the series to get me into them.
So why are they here? I'm confused about this. Don't they live 1,000 years in the future?
Well, apparently, Superboy is a part of the Legion of Superheroes. And so back in, the first continuity of stuff, they go back, the Legion of Superheroes go back in time and take Superman and take him to the future, and he has adventures with them in the future. And then after Superman grows older, he has his kid, they come, and instead of taking Superman, they take his son. Not like unwillingly or anything. He chooses to go to the future, but it seems like it seems like Superboy and Supergirl have chosen to live their lives in the future instead of their current time.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Which is, but you have characters like Brainiac 5. A lot of these names are super chilly. There's like Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad. It's all the cheesiest Silver Age names you could think of, But like Brainiac 5 is a descendant from Brainiac, and so there's a bunch of like cool stuff. Well, what's her face from Doomsday Clock? I'm spacing her name right now. The one that was jailed up in the insane asylum.
Oh yeah.
The blonde girl. But there again, it's like, well, Doomsday Clock was so convoluted. Like, you don't know who that person is,
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, and this just happens every time DC does a big event. There's just so many people, and so many people who don't come out for anything other than this event. You know what I mean?
Or the single panel.
It is just. It's a lot of fan service. It's very fan servicey.
That's what I've realized the most about Alex's work. I mean, you shift over to the next panel where it says Batman. That Statue of Liberty thing in the background, that's from Batman the Animated Series. That's the only reason. That's a homage to that series. That's it. Yeah. But he's very fan service, which makes it fun. And that's the only reason why I like it, reading this more as I grow older, because I know more about these characters.
Yeah.
And look at some of these characters. It's cool seeing them.
Yeah, it builds up the more you know about it.
Hmm.
Batman in Gotham, he's made a series of bat robots, and then he kind of just monitors everything from the Batcave.
Hmm.
Really makes you wonder why he didn't do this a long time ago. Like, it just seems like the most effective way.
It just worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just works apparently. Like, Gotham is now like some sort of utopia. Although some people would argue that they're just living under martial law, like people are just terrified all the time. There's a
Yeah.
lot. There's a lot of that kind of Watchmen-esque question about, whose right is it to be in charge of everyone, and
Hmm.
who's going to be the, do superheroes deserve or have the right to make rules for regular humans, or should humans be in charge of their own destiny, and yada 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 yada.
Well, that's why he can't make the decision at the end.
Yeah, but this is essentially, it is the Watchmen story,
Hmm.
but in a world of superheroes.
Yeah.
It's just slightly backwards. Like if everyone was Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen, there might be a very similar, conversation here.
Hmm.
Um,
Totally.
but then after this, we get into another one of these Inhuman fights in a scene that's very like Spider-Man, like Death of Gwen Stacy.
Totally what I thought. Yeah.
This cable car is about to fall with all these innocent people, and then a flash. What is that? It's faster than a speeding bullet. It's more powerful than a hurricane, or you know what I mean? It's just like all the classic Superman stuff. And he just shows up and saves everyone. And everyone's like stoked. Yo, it's Superman. How exciting. He's here. Where's he been? And that's and then he gets like a vision. Our priest man of Superman in great pain and suffering. And then that's the end of the book. Or the end of the first issue, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is this. What a great setup. What a great setup for a book. Here's everybody. Here's our situation. Here's our world. And then after this, you know what? We're going to get into it.
Mark Waid, I mean, especially in comparison to the other books that we've been reading, he nails it on that structure platform. I love it.
Yeah.
I thought it was it's a fluid read. I don't feel like there's too much information. I feel like you're getting just insight at that point.
I think it's very well paced.
Mm-hmm.
But my only complaint as far as story goes is I don't really buy a lot of the characters' motivations or their actions. But I'll discuss that as we get further into it.
Point it out, yeah.
Yeah.
An issue 2. What's it called again? Truth and Justice. I think this is one of my favorite issues, if I'm not mistaken, or my favorite issue. But I love the first painting. I mean, the League coming out of the flame from the Statue of Liberty, basically.
Yeah, and also kind of like they look like Horsemen of the Apocalypse or something.
Oh yeah,
in the way that they're drawn in shadow and black, like it's kind of
Stereo.
there's a little bit of a question there.
Mm-hmm.
And the juxtapositions is quite nice. But then we get to the Statue of Liberty, and there's like a fight going on there.
Yeah, there's American Commando right there.
Oh yeah. And then now the reformed Justice League. So basically, when Superman said, "Hey, I'm not down for this anymore. My heart's broken," then everyone just kind of quit. And this first is my first complaint of how these characters are written, because you're telling me that Superman is the only one of these superheroes who are self-motivated. Like every other superhero in the Justice League was like, "Man, Superman's not here. All right, well, I guess let's go home, everyone." You know what I mean? It just makes all the other superheroes seem so like in the Marvel universe, if Captain America died, and he did, it's not like the rest of the Avengers were like, "Well, that's it."
I can totally see what you mean there.
I guess we're going home, because the event was traumatic for Superman, losing Lois Lane.
Yeah.
And that's his tie to humanity, was his parents and Lois. But then, this again is just like, this part kind of confused me too. I don't think Superman is there just for Lois Lane or just for his parents.
Like we humanity.
Know he's there for humanity. That's his character. He's there to help everyone. So it seems so strange to me. And I guess, I mean, I could see how you could justify it, but I just don't buy Superman giving up on an entire planet. It just seems like the last thing Superman would ever do. Especially when knowing that his actions have caused every other superhero to be like, "Okay, well, I guess we're done." That's the only thing as far as motivation. Of course, it's at the the source of the entire book.
Yeah.
Like, is Superman, like, what's he going to do now that he's back? But I don't know. I mean, I can look past that because the rest of the book is really good. And I think the Superman presented here is maybe a little more complex and more interesting than other Supermen have been.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, more
He seems
barriers to him, and I
he
think that
seems more
angered me.
human.
Hmm.
He seems more like
Emotional.
flawed. As whereas before portrayal of Superman is always just like,
The boy in blue.
pristine. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is what he gets criticism for in this book, is being too old fashioned, too 1940s or whatever.
Well, I think that's the cool part about him, is that he is the one that never changed, and then him
mhm.
changing, that's what rocks the boat. Like
That
something that
changed the world.
nobody
Yeah.
would see that coming. Nobody would expect that. Like you wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect that. So doing that unexpected act is the big shocking point of it, because in fact, he did change for once.
And I think that's where a big theme of social commentary in this book comes from, is that we have to be wary of wanting change,
Hmm.
because sometimes when we have a tremendous change, we don't realize, oh, this was really good. Like how
Yeah.
we had it was really, really good.
Hmm.
Or all these unintended consequences come about.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's a huge driving theme of this book for sure.
Hmm.
Um,
Totally
who are
nailed it
these
for sure.
who are these aliens in the Statue of Liberty?
I
They have some mental link over some of these heroes. Um, and they just look so funny to me.
I actually
But
have no idea. I don't even think they're named or anything. I think they are just like, I mean,
generic baddies 1 and 2.
generic. Yeah.
Um,
Um, I wanted to point out on the page with Americommando, there is the Statue of Liberty thing, and it does say Lobo was here. I thought that was
yeah,
super funny because you finally
yeah.
see
The
Lobo. But you have this, just like what's going on in America right now. You have this super patriotic guy stopping all the immigrants from coming in, and Americommando is the one that's stopping anyone from any other country. And if you're not full on American, you're not
yeah.
American. And it's like, wow, that was in 1996.
Oh yeah. Misappropriated patriotism, or misplaced patriotism. That's
Hmm.
definitely uh, something that's not new, but it feels so relevant to right
So
now.
relevant.
So relevant. Yeah, I caught that too. And there's a character in here. I don't remember if it's this scene. They're fighting with someone named Naga, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah, yeah.
this is so close.
And then
um,
you have it's these characters parachuting down are called Red, White, and Blue. They're like three robots. They're new characters. They're that new breed and whatnot.
hmm.
But just it's like a weird. I forgot where else we saw it, but recently we saw a series where there was like a triplet, and it's like different personalities through all of them. I'm spacing it. Oh no, that's Legion of Superheroes. That's what I was thinking of. I read issue 5
Hmm.
recently.
Oh, okay.
But it's something I see in here, and I see it in X-Men a lot too. That triple kind of multi-brain type of thing going on.
Oh yeah. I can see that. Well, we
And
get the
here,
Justice League back in full form, pretty much,
oh, did you know
cleaning up
who
these guys.
the guy
Oh,
was that beat up the telepathic guys?
I'm assuming that was Robin. That's Dick, right?
Yeah, that's Dick Grayson. Yeah,
Yeah.
as
At
Red Robin.
first, I was like, okay, is this some stupid character who's going to be named Falcon or something like that?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And because at first I was like, I really hope this isn't Batman, because this is a terrible Batman redesign.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I was like, well, wait a second, that's not a bat, that's like a bird or something. And then a couple pages later, it hit me because when he goes back to talk to Batman again, Superman does,
Hmm.
and he's like, well, we got Dick on our side, and he's like, well, you got to try better than that, man. We don't get along anyways. Like, I hate everyone, so you're not gonna buy me in with Dick Grayson.
There's so many calls to that, and I love it. And his and Dick's relationship have always just been so rocky. And it's funny
Mhm.
that he adapted not the Nightwing persona continued, but like the Red Robin persona. And instead of
You know,
giving it that R, they gave it that his own emblem finally.
yeah, I think this is kind of a cool. Nightwing has always been a cool character to me, but his character is so different from Batman. Whereas this character, you can kind of see like, oh, they're related. Like,
Yeah.
this guy is very much come from Batman.
Hmm.
I think that's a little more obvious in this one. Superman, though, they clean up this thing, and then they start facing like a little bit of criticism. People are kind of like wondering where he's been.
Yeah.
Like, what's taken you so long? And he owns up to some of it too. But they basically say like, hey, we're going to take control of this whole situation, and we're going to straighten this thing out. And this is when we get kind of the motivation from the other side, because there's this panel of humans, the government, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're essentially
Mhm.
what they're supposed to be. I don't know if it's revealed yet they're led by Lex Luthor, and they want to restore, all rights and freedoms to humanity. And Lex Luthor's called out on it almost immediately about like, well, you want it to be restored to you, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you can easily control humans, you can't control these guys, and that's really what you're upset about.
Yeah, exactly.
I
love how Luthor has grown into the old fat man we all expected him to be.
Yeah, me too. This is like the one time I feel like every time I see Luthor in the future, I'm like, I don't buy that.
Yeah,
And
right?
this time I see Luthor in the future, I'm like, that's him. That's exactly what Luthor would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Man. What were we going to say?
I was saying, and then we go into Wayne Manor.
Yeah, Wayne Manor destroyed.
It reminds me of Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker when Terry heads back after Joker's attacked Bruce in the Batcave. That's what it kind of felt like going into this demolished, destroyed Wayne Manor.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Batman Forever when Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey trashed Wayne Manor. That's what I thought you were going for.
I have not seen that in so long. I faintly remember that. That's how bad.
That movie's really bad.
Let's see only those movies just to
we
rip
should.
on them.
I've seen that Batman movie more than any other Batman movie.
Oh, me too. Well, we grew up.
Batman Forever. That was that was the one of our childhood.
Yeah.
Because when we were kids, Batman and Batman Returns were already out.
Yeah.
And I had watched them like on VHS or whatever.
But I enjoyed
Batman
them,
Returns,
but not as much because I was a kid.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I remember thinking Batman Returns was the best one, and now looking back, I'm like, oh gosh,
no.
I did not like how dark Batman. I said Batman Returns right now. Batman Forever, I thought was the best one when I was a kid. But when I was a kid, I didn't like how dark Batman Returns was.
Oh, right.
Thinking
you
this
didn't
was
get
kind
it.
of scary. It was like too much. Of course, now looking back, I'm like, oh man, this is the one, dude. Batman Returns is like perfect.
Isn't it? That's my favorite one out of all of them. Honestly,
it's great.
Like, Batman is great because it's what started it, and I love the suit. But Batman Returns, it's a good movie. Honestly.
And the original Batman a lot of it is dated very poorly, whereas Batman Returns still feels really fresh somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and his gadgets and Returns is just awesome.
The other two, Forever and Batman and Robin, though, whew.
We don't got to see him suit up.
But we do in both of those movies.
I know.
I think they start the exact same way with like almost the same montage.
We have to see like 2 butts in was it Forever, and then like 4 butts in Batman and Robin because we have to watch them suit up. Like I'm like, guys, I don't care how Batman puts on the suit.
No, I don't need to see the rubber nipples.
No, but well, back to the cool Batcave.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I don't know if that was the Bruce's T-Rex because his T-Rex is right here. I don't know if that was it in.
That's interesting. No, you're right. Maybe Superman replaced it with a fake one and took
the cool one. Yeah.
You know what we need to do? We would actually be a great episode. We need to find what comic book, what issue of Batman did that T-Rex originate?
I saw it recently too.
Is it really an issue?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's an issue. Yeah. Everything that came from his Batcave is from Silver and Golden Age adventures.
We should read that issue. That would be a hilarious
everything. Yeah.
Batman episode to find the origins of the dinosaur because it's in everything. It's like in every interpretation almost. That dinosaur.
We should do a segment called Origins of the Batcave and just highlight little memorabilia from stuff.
I'm super down. I would be super down for
that'd be fun research. But this is where I was talking about where we get the smiling Batman. We don't turn around and see that grim, like, what are you doing here, Clark? He's like pretty upbeat this whole entire conversation. His facial expressions, he's not angry. He's just like, this is what we all get, I knew this would happen.
He's definitely it's not a happy smile. It's not like smiling Bruce. It's like, oh, I've got you, Superman. You're a piece of crap, man. You've been gone for 10 years and now you're coming back telling me how we gotta do things.
All that I told you to spite that he just that's holding on to for all these years.
That's exactly what's going on here.
But it's cool. It's cool seeing that broken, battered old man Bruce Wayne, where he has an exoskeleton holding him together. Yeah, and look at that spine mechanic, and it's just wires holding his face up. Like
it's cool. It's very Doc Ock.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But basically, he rubs it in Superman's face for a while, and then says, "Nah, man, like I'm not gonna help you."
Yeah,
that's more or less what happens. And there's something else that goes on. Oh, well, Batman is also assembling like a team. And is it the Beetle? Is that one of the guys in here? But he's not in.
The Blue Beetle, yeah.
That is Blue Beetle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Um, and they're planning on expanding his program of super robot policemen. They're doing the plot line to Iron Man 3 is what's going on in this couple pages. The entire plot of Iron Man 3 is squeezed in here.
But done well.
Yeah, this page might handle it better than Iron Man 3 did.
Yes. And then we have Oliver Queen and Black Canary. We have Green Arrow and Black Canary. I think that's really cool. I love seeing that Oliver with the bald head, and I love his little stash and goatee. I think it's classy. It's appropriate for him. I'm going to point out, Dr. Fate is right here. And the notes for the book, and they've picked on Alex Ross for this all the time, is that, he had all these ideas and concepts for all these characters and how they're going to turn out, how they're going to look. And for some reason, Dr. Fate was going to be a dolphin.
A dolphin? What?
Yeah. And then he even goes back and says, he's just like, I'm sorry, like not every idea is a good one. And I was just like, yeah.
I guess, yeah, there's a lesson to be learned there. Not everyone has all the right ideas.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's one of those things. And then, I love seeing his, Alex Ross draw classic first appearance Batman and Superman holding the car. And that actually, that's the cover of Detective Comics 1000. That's
it is,
super hard cover to get a hold of. And then we have Wonder Woman back here from her, like, I guess that's her first appearance on here as well, I'm assuming, because it's the other twos. But her hair's different. You can tell her outfit's different. She's riding the horse and everything. And then the contrast on the next page of what they look like. I think it's just super interesting of
it's really cool.
Previous lives to now.
I got to say, though, I felt like Alex's Ross, because you really see the interpretation of his characters throughout all these books. I feel like his interpretation really made the most sense in Marvel's because of the time period.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he nails that, like, 1940s look, 50s, 60s. He nails that so well.
Futuristic stuff isn't his forte. Yeah.
Although there was some great stuff, like with the Galactus stuff was beautiful.
Oh, like that whole inspiration. Yeah.
That stuff was pretty amazing too. But something about that shot of like that early group of, it wasn't even the Avengers. It was like Captain America and all those weird other guys, like dropping down on that Nazi base at the end of issue.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's just like classic. I don't know.
That's what he brings back. And it makes me wonder, I mean, I can't because they're just not that great, but it makes me want to read those stories hoping they're going to feel that fun and adventurous,
No.
But
yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like you're looking at the cover of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You're like, wow, this could be so great. This could be amazing. And then you pop that DVD in the player.
Dude, I wanted to see if we could do that next, but I want to.
That's a movie we should steal, E. Because again, and this is another tangent. That's a movie I loved when I was a kid.
Same. I watched
that movie so many times.
My grandpa liked that movie because he was just like, I like all these characters. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's one of those. It's one of those like, oh, I've read Tom Sawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, ugh. We'll have to save that CLE for when we do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen for the channel.
I was going to recommend that to go into that next if you want.
That would be cool. We'll see. We'll see, Brandon. I don't trust your recommendation. Trust is built over time but easily lost, Brandon. That's how that works in life.
I know. Even when I said that statement last week, I was just like, "Oh, this is going to bite back to me real hard."
Oh yeah, I'm never going to let it go. I'm the most spiteful person I know. Anyway,
on to the next page real fast. There's some cool stuff going on here. So I think to the far left, I think that's a character called the Ray. I don't know who the Ray is, but then you have the Flash, you have Power Girl, you have Superman, Wonder Woman. But you also have the Golden Guardian. He's in Young Justice. He's an older Kirby character. I don't know much about him, but the guy next to him, the all gold guy, that's Cyborg.
Oh, there's a couple of people in this book where I was like, is that Cyborg? You know what I mean? They have a couple of like half robot, half people. This is an interesting interpretation of Cyborg though. Sorry. He looks like Colossus, like a gold version of Colossus.
And then I like what they did with Dr. Midnight. They kind of stripped away his regular appearance that looks real similar to Red Robin and gave him like that smoke coming out of him all the time.
That is cool.
And I don't know much about him. I just know he's just a society character, and that's it. That's all I know about Dr. Midnight. I don't even know his powers. But right now, everyone's just kind of like, you know, fight injustice, saying that they're patrolling the streets and they're spreading the word and all that. You start seeing them flying through the cities. You start seeing kids wearing Superman shirts and the Flash shirts again. And on this next page, I think there's one of the funniest, most insane characters ever. This guy fighting this Spider-Man looking guy. His name is Cathedral.
Cathedral. Wow.
Cathedral. Yeah. And in the linear notes, it's I forgot what the other guy was based off of Spider-Man, but it's just poking fun at the most ridiculous things that these Image guys would get ideas from and create into superheroes. But
That's
Cathedral,
hilarious.
like his
That's
armor,
a good
his
roast.
outfit, like
he just looks like a building. Yeah,
yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes, just a blend in or something. I don't even get what the idea is behind that.
And while we're here, we're starting to get kind of the cracks between this relationship that's going on, because Superman wants to stop all these metahumans, and he wants them to join their side so he can teach them how to be a good superhero.
Mm-hmm.
There are rules that we have to follow. But not all of these people are going to come along and just decide, oh, you know what? You're right. Let me change everything I'm doing. Some of them do.
Yeah.
But a lot of them want to do things the way they've been doing it. And then Wonder Woman in particular is kind of struggling here because she's got a bloodthirst. She wants to just kill everyone. She wants just to have like a war, and
she's the warrior woman. Yeah.
Yeah. She's a soldier,
mm-hmm.
Which she says a whole bunch of times in this book. I'm a soldier. Yeah. Clark, Cal, Superman, I'm a soldier. And then
they say that just as many times as they say, I have a bad feeling about this in the Clone Wars.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's for at least like 3 an episode.
There's a lot of I got a bad feeling about this, and there's a lot of Wilhelm screams if you really listen for him in the Clone Wars TV show.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many Wilhelms.
Totally true.
There's some good stuff there. But I just think this is funny. Also, this is kind of like the storyline to Injustice, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Except that Superman is like obviously a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Wonder Woman.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Has that same kind of like, oh, we need to fight and we need to like blah, 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 blah. So some of these character tropes really carry over through a lot, which, I don't want to be down on comics, because we've read some great ones, but the more of these big event books that I read, the more that I'm thinking like, there are only so many stories that we can tell with Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman and Green Lantern. And there are so many times where these stories are just recycled. And I can tell that, like, in this case, this was probably very original when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
But reading this for the first time after it's been released for 20 years, you can see where all of, like, the roots of this have sunken into the comic community.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so much repetition. In a way, it's kind of like Star Wars. You have a whole galaxy of possibilities, but they keep making the same movie more or less over and over again. Oh, here's the big thing we got to blow up. Let's all join together. We're a scrappy group, but then we'll figure out how to do it somehow.
That's the hardest thing about finding like a good Superman story, a good Wonder Woman story. And then even at times, like it's kind of somewhat difficult to do a new Batman story at that too. They've really had to expand that universe. And, sometimes they're all so big that it's like, well, you're missing this character, like, why didn't they intervene? And it's just, at some point they need a clean slate again, and that's, I guess, where they do reboots to just kind of, rehash some of those old stories in like a fresher way, it's
which is essentially what it kind of always boils down to in comics, right? It's like, let's go for something, and then about 6 years or whatever, we're just going to hit it again.
Yeah, and we're going to have a crisis.
We're doing Ultimate Avengers now or whatever, and let's tell more or less the same story, but let's move a few things around, which is interesting, I think. But every once in a while we get one that just feels so much different. Like Mr. Miracle, for instance, was like, wow, this is really refreshing. Something totally new. And I can't even imagine reading Watchmen in the 80s. Like reading that book while it was coming out, that must have been
mind-blowing.
Yeah, how insane that comic book was.
Well, that and The Dark Knight Returns, because up to then we had that campy, pretty much barely becoming a detective type of Batman, and Frank Miller just flipped that upside down so hard. Like, but speaking of like all of that, that's what I think was cool about this villain scene that's on the next page.
Oh yeah. Ooh, great transition.
Because we have over here Lex Luthor. We have the guy who runs Cobra, which is like a underground organization. I'm familiar with them mainly because of Batman Beyond.
Yeah, I
And
remember
then
them too.
we have the King, which is part of also from I'm really just familiar from Batman Beyond, but the Royal Flush Gang.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's who that is. That's the King from them right there.
Hmm.
We have Vandal Savage. We have the Riddler, which I do admire the Riddler's glasses.
And the Riddler is such a little troll in this whole
I
scene
know,
too.
he's so annoying.
He's so annoying. Everyone's like, please shut up.
Yes.
Catwoman's there. They're together. Catwoman and Riddler.
Oh, I think she just strung him along.
Yeah, as like
It
a
doesn't seem like
partner.
they're like dating. Yeah, I was like,
Because
okay,
they say
well,
companion Edward Nygma, but
yeah,
then later they say, control your guest or something like that. Because
yeah.
he's just annoying everyone.
And then we have Ibn al Zufash. I don't even know how to say that name.
Yeah,
But do you know who that is?
Isn't he from League of Shadows?
Yeah, the League of Shadows. But do you know where he's from? I'm just curious. Because
Where he's from?
yeah, like it took me, now that I've read the book, it all made sense, but I don't think it would make sense if like out of context.
I don't know. Where is he from? Batman, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's Bruce Wayne's son.
Oh,
so there's a comic. I want to say it's from the 80s. It's called Son of the Demon, and Talia and Bruce hook up, and which we all see coming.
We all know, yeah.
And they end up having a kid, but Bruce doesn't know. So Talia gets rid of him. She just sends him up for adoption, and nobody knows what happens to that kid. It wasn't until Grant Morrison, years later in the new millennium, brought Damian Wayne into the picture, and that was the abandoned son.
Yeah, okay.
And so that is pretty much Damian Wayne.
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah. That kind of makes that satisfies me, because it seemed so bizarre that Bruce was going to work with these guys. But then at the same time, Batman's kind of got another angle to it, like he always does.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. Batman is the only one in this book who acts like you think they would, and of course, Batman is right because he's always right.
Yeah,
and that's like that's how all these stories kind of boil down. We should have just listened to Batman because he knows what he's talking about.
As always,
yeah, as always, he's just way too smart.
Well, I think during that team up where they agree to it, I think it's Batman even makes a nod saying like, "Oh, because of this, I've or this partner or mutual partner, we've agreed to do this." And he's with Eban or whatever his name is.
But we get this thing now too about Shazam. Shazam is in the story. What's his real name again? The kid?
Billy Batson.
Billy Batson. And then this isn't revealed in the book yet, but we might as well just talk about it because it's super simple. Basically, Billy's been brainwashed by Luthor to do what he wants. And that's the service that Shazam carries.
Yeah. He's known as the wild card because nobody knows what's going on with Billy or Shazam. Like he just disappeared one day.
Yes. Which, I mean, that could be a little bit of a plot hole. You know what I mean? Like, how exactly does Luthor go about brainwashing Shazam? It seems like it'd be pretty difficult to hold someone against their will and brainwash them. But Lex Luthor's a smart guy, so who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's. If this was Marvel, you'd have to read issue 1.5 in Amazing Spider-Man 77, and then finish the story in Fantastic Four 26,
and then do the prequel, the Road to in X-Men.
And there'll be like a little reference to. It'll be like one panel, and you'll be like, "Oh, okay.
That's what they meant."
That makes sense. Oh, I understand the story now. Okay, so what happens next? Oh, Superman basically goes into this big bar, and this is when you really get an idea of like how much trouble this is going to be. That obviously there are all these people who are not going to join Superman's idea.
This entire scene was in my head when I said that statement last week. When I was like, "There's not a lot of characters," and all of a sudden this bar scene popped into my head, and I was like, "He's going to get to the bar." And we're going to
I was so angry the whole time because I knew when you had said it, I was like, I don't believe this guy. Like, there's no way that DC could possibly show restraint. Like, they don't have it in them to write a story with 6 characters. It's just not possible.
And dude, there's so many cool references in this, like interesting references. Like,
I mean, interesting is a subjective word, but please continue.
Check it out. The bartenders are Captain Cold and Weather Wizard.
Okay.
And they even have like the glasses and their masks on still. We have Lobo over here. We have Solomon Grundy as a bouncer.
Yeah, I caught
Um,
Grundy.
we have. Did you see Rorschach in the background of this panel over here?
No, I didn't. Well, I also can't see what you're looking at when you say
Second, so, oh
in the
my bad. Yeah, oh
background.
my bad. Second, this first page of the bar, the second panel to the left.
Okay, first page of the bar, second panel to the
He's
left.
like right below Lobo and the guy drinking with
Oh
Lobo.
yeah, Rorschach is
Yeah.
back there.
We have this other freedom fighter that's in that hazmat suit. I forget his name, but we've seen him in what comic did we see him in?
I don't know. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Brandon. I just don't really care about like all of these faces.
And
It's just so much. Although in this scene, it doesn't really matter because they're just supposed to be bodies.
yeah, exactly. Just kind of
It's
float up.
it's not like, oh, let's talk to Blue Beetle and get his opinion on this whole thing.
Kind of like
Although it
Earth
does kind
X.
of,
Earth
yeah,
X kind
Earth
of
X
has
is
a
way worse for this. There's a
here,
couple times. I mean, Big Barda shows up for a pretty important thing,
and their kid.
and their kid, yeah. And it's like, well, whatever.
Well, if you turn the page, and this is the second, I would technically the third page of all the bar scene. The first panel, we have this drunken guy just slamming a bottle, like and burping and everything.
Yeah.
That's what's his name? It's Marvin, right? From Super Friends.
Oh,
That's
it
him.
is. That's
Yeah,
so funny.
that's him. He's all washed up and everything. And then you have this like superhero village people in the background too.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff in here, man. Oh, and
Um,
maybe another. Oh no, that's someone else. Okay.
and who? Oh, and the very bottom panel, you have Death, the Black Racer. Um, that Brian Azarillo guy pops up again. Oh, and then this. I mean the Miracle Man colored woman in the big Bard outfit. That's their kid.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
In that stupid costume. Um,
the color scheme is just. It
it's
looks
offensive.
disgusting on this. Yeah.
It's an offensive color scheme. That's really a huge part of why the costume looks so dumb. It's like a bold color scheme. Of course, there's some country's flag who probably has the same color scheme, so I don't want to go
Jamaica.
insulting people too much. I think it is Jamaica, huh? It is Jamaica colors.
Oh, and you know what? In that same panel where we see Mr. Miracles and Big Barda's daughter, to the
Mhm.
left, it looks like we have Sherlock Holmes, The Shadow, The Question, Rorschach, and Obsidian,
Wow.
where it says, "Holy God, he was here." That's that little group right there, like a group of detectives. That'd be an
How
interesting
exciting.
conversation.
How exciting. Yeah, and then
Rorsch-
Batman would just be tapping the whole thing.
yeah.
Is Rorschach really a detective, though? I mean, I guess he does light detective work. He's like, oh, there's a kid's bones here next to this dog bowl.
Yeah.
I wonder what the mystery could be going on.
Oh my gosh. I do love Green Arrow's like callback to Robin Hood's outfit.
Yeah, and and this part is Superman tells him, hey, you got to join us or you're going to be dealt with. And a bunch of these superheroes who are in here, or whatever you want to call them, metahumans or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they, some of them are instantly like turned. They're like, wow, Superman, so inspirational. I can't believe I got to hear him talk in person. And then some don't. And that's really that, because is this the issue with the prison after this? Let me see.
I think it's the next issue.
Oh, yeah. They go to Atlantis to say, hey, we need to get rid of some peeps.
Oh, I've never seen a cooler Aquaman moment.
Yeah, dude, this is
Ever.
the coolest Aquaman. He's like, I was always just a little fish boy to you. I'm controlling all of the oceans. I'm controlling 70% of the world and doing everything I can to keep it in line.
Like, I
You
have
guys can go worry
responsibility.
about your own problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not going to run some little prison colony for you guys. So,
I love it.
yeah, he's out. Aquaman's out. And then we get another. They find Magog.
Magog, yeah. Oh, yeah. Just
And-
trying to
and-
rebuild stuff like you would see Superman just doing at the
Yeah.
Fortress of Solitude.
He's literally doing the same thing. And then it's a little sad. He's trying to
Mhm.
rebuild this house and he breaks it in half, trying to move the whole thing. So
And then-
he shows up and Superman, he kind of breaks down a little bit.
Yeah.
We get this whole story. We get this whole story about the Joker killing again. But this time it's in the Daily Planet and he kills all these employees. He kills Lois Lane. Superman wants justice. Obviously, he wants to take him in and have him be tried. And then Magog says, nah, I'm going to blow him up. And he shoots him with this like ray spear thing. It kind of looks like an Aquaman trident.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
kills Joker in front of all these people, and then basically like they take him to court, and everyone sides with him. They're like, no, we side with Magog 100% or 77%. They have a vote in the paper, and only 18% of the people are on Superman's side. They think he's got these tired ways of looking at things.
I like how they have the long-haired Superman at this point too.
Yeah, he looks so stupid. A little ponytail, Jedi Padawan Superman.
Yeah.
But basically, Magog being out here has like come to terms with what his life has become because of his decisions and the weight of all these people that he killed during that fight. And they end up, they kill him, don't they? No, they don't kill him.
No, they don't kill him. He surrenders and he blames Superman. He's like, you changed I love the writing in this part too.
Yeah, this is good writing.
The world changed, but you wouldn't. So they chose me. They chose the man who would kill over the man who wouldn't. And now they're dead. A million ghosts punish me, lock me away. Just make the ghosts go away. And I was like, dang, dude, it's intense.
Yeah. And this, this kind of, this is interesting because DC seems to be so much more about this idea as opposed to Marvel is. When you compare the two big names.
Oh, yeah.
DC is like, we can't kill people. It's not right. What are we going to become? And so many of their characters are based on that idea. Where in Marvel Comics, I feel like they're way more likely to just kill somebody.
Dude, Daredevil will kill someone. He's a lawyer and he'll still kill someone. You know what I mean? Like
Punisher kills everybody. Like even Spider-Man will kill people. And he's the goofy, funny kid. You know what I mean? In Marvel, they make it clear that, hey, sometimes people need to be killed. And then the Joker just seems like such an extreme example because every time they put him through trial and then he breaks out and he murders a bunch of people. And then they all say, hey, let's do it again. And they just keep doing it over and over and over again.
And that's the biggest like kind of trope that they have going on.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest like, and they use this motivation over and over. Well, he should have died a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is like, Magog is not incorrect here.
Yeah.
And even in a civilized society, we realize at one point, if you're sending someone to trial for mass murder after the 60th time, you kill them. You know what I mean? Like how many times have they caught Joker like this? So he's not wrong.
And he's an old Joker too, that just shows how long they let this go on for.
Yeah. And the Joker character design is great in this book. I love the way Joker looks.
Oh, yeah.
But then the way it's written is supposed to be like, okay, so Magog decided to kill Joker, and this led to him killing other people. And because he's so willing to kill, that fight they had with Captain Atom, when they killed him, it was, devastation. Millions of people died. So it's wrong to do that. And that's our ideology. You know what I mean? But it's not that it's wrong. It's all this absolutism that's the problem that's going on. And that's with all of these characters. They're all like 100%, stuck in their own way. And that's how all this tragedy happens. And the only person who seems to be even willing to bend at all is Batman. And Batman is the one who ends up like fixing the whole thing. So I just think that's interesting because in this story, is death necessary? What is the message we're trying to say here? Should they have agreed with Superman back then and avoided all of this?
Right.
Or would this have led to something else anyways? So, that part felt a little muddy to me, like as far as where we're supposed to read on this. But I think that's a lot of the feeling of this book where you're like, I'm not entirely sure who's the good guy in this situation. Like Superman's making some decisions that are really bad and obviously aren't going to work. But his intentions are well. So,
well, I think that all bounces back to your original, thought of the book is that the choice at the end, who's the one that should really make that choice? Yeah. It all comes down to that, and I think now that you've highlighted it, that idea is that it's, I'm finding it to be more noticeable that making that choice isn't up to almost anyone.
Yeah, it really isn't. So there's some pretty clever stuff going on here, like some really big theoried ideas.
Mark Waid. When you have a good writer, it's gonna come out.
Yeah, really.
And the next page, actually, I have the original. I have the first prints in my room. I should actually have gone and gotten them. But apparently, this entire scene wasn't in the original print.
Oh, really? This apocalypse stuff going on, or
Yeah,
what?
apparently
Okay.
it just was like a little too much, and it doesn't do anything for the story necessarily, but
They
it
could have
does.
easily left it out, but we basically just get another turn, like another place they turn to and get turned down.
Yeah, and you get to see what happened to Darkseid and Orion and all these new gods essentially.
Yeah.
Um, as a kid, I never got this scene, and it's again we've talked about this a million times. Is that if you don't know anything about the fourth world, you're not going to know what this is. And if you hadn't read Mister Miracle, you probably wouldn't even know who Orion was.
No, I'd be so lost. And like Big Barda and everything, because they show up in the next few pages too, right? Is this when
Yeah,
they show up? Yeah.
yeah. As a kid,
Um,
this entire segment lost. But now I'm like,
yeah.
oh, this is awesome.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I could easily see it being edited out though. I don't
hmm
know if it necessarily gives us anything, completely new, but there's enough.
No, yeah, because even when they introduce Scott Free later on, they do say, "Oh, it's Scott Free, Mister Miracle, creating the prison." So that gives you the idea there. But
Yeah.
I think it's cool seeing how Orion has turned into Darkseid, and he's taken his mantle as the ruler of Apocalypse, and even
Yeah.
Superman comments on how his hair even drapes like Darkseid's helmet and
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah. It is kind of cool though that it is a nice change of pace and scenery, and
And
it's a nice it's a great work here. Like we get a far zoom out on the planet, and then it slowly kind of zooms in, and we see what it looks like there, and it looks
mhm.
hellish. It looks
and it
terrible.
it even deceives you because you're expecting Darkseid on that first page, and it's not until his reveal on the second page on that second panel that you're like, oh wow, like. And when I was a kid, I thought this was like Darkseid, but like somehow humanized in a sense.
Yeah.
But we also get the Miracle Machine, which isn't used often. I think it may have been used in Mr. Miracle. I could be totally wrong, but I know it was used in Final
I don't remember.
Crisis, right? I don't remember. I wouldn't be surprised at
Could be.
all, um, but it is cool seeing Big Barda with the eye patch and everything too.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice. It's always nice to see those characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end of issue 2, the cliffhanger they leave us on is that Batman has joined this group of humans.
Yeah, they're
Lex
alliance.
Luthor, this alliance of government people. What? How could you do that, Batman? How could you join the bad guys? And then, of course, we know he's got a contingency plan. He's always got a contingency plan.
Always.
Issue
And
3 is the big prison issue, the next
yes.
issue, where they've built this prison that's, basically, yeah, Mr. Miracle is using some kind of like technological magic, I guess, to keep all these
Mm-hmm.
people locked into place.
Yeah, the world's greatest escape artist, keeping everyone locked up. Super
Exactly.
great concept. And then it
And then,
looks like the Legion of Doom's headquarters, which I adore.
yes, it does look like that, which seems like a weird choice. Like, why would you make it look like an evil villain's headquarters if you're
Like,
locking people up and reforming them? But again, it's probably just a reference. It's probably just a
yeah, I was gonna say it's all fanboy calling at that point.
yeah.
Like they had to find a way to just throw that in there somehow
Mm-hmm.
because you see the Hall of Justice in the newspaper prints and whatnot from Super
Mm-hmm.
Friends. So I guess they had to throw that in too.
Got to throw in one more. Superman is he's put there in like a hologram to try and tell people, hey, we all have to do what I'm saying we have to do. And this is when we get a little bit of like Red Sun Superman, where now he's telling the world how they need to act.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, this one is way more convincing than Red Sun, which the whole book is about Superman becoming an authoritarian dictator and how can we make that happen realistically. And this book maybe succeeded in that even better
Oh
because
yeah.
Superman never doubts his intentions. He thinks this is the right thing to do. But we're soon going to see that, it's not going to work out. You can't contain this many powerful people and expect it to work.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to our narrators, and there's this skeleton guy who shows up, and I don't know who this is.
Oh wait, real fast. Before we
yeah.
go past this, there's the page that we introduced Scott Free down here. But if you turn the page, this first panel, doesn't that guy with the pointy ears and the girl, is that from Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Oh, it is. Yeah, I noticed that when I was looking through here. I think it's just a weird reference. I was
Yeah.
actually going to ask you. I was like, was there a DC Rocky Horror like comic book or something? Like maybe Alex Ross is just a Rocky Horror fan and thought, hey, I have free reign right now. I have put everyone else in the universe in this book. Let's throw in one more.
Yeah, I don't see anything specifically saying who they are. I mean, this thing, the annotations show you all the characters, but it says this might be Shade 3. Like, I'm assuming Shade, as in Shade the Changing Man, Shade the Changing Girl type of thing. And Demon Damsel and Nowhere Man. But that doesn't seem familiar. I don't know. I have no idea. But it does look just like the Rocky Horror stuff. So I'm going to go with that.
That's what I thought it was too.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to assume he was a big Rocky Horror fan.
But this, we were going to the kind of the watchers of this universe, which is really interesting. We have Highfather. We have the what's his face from Oa. We have Shazam, which actually gives Shazam his powers, and then we have Zeus. And since Shazam is made out of the mythic gods, like stands for Zeus. Zeus still stands for something because he is part of Wonder Woman's mythology.
Okay.
I thought that was weird. It's like he's like part of two worlds at that point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, both worlds just ripped off existing mythology.
Yeah.
Like that's
really,
yeah. That's yeah.
And then we have the Phantom Stranger, another character that's in Justice League Dark. It's also in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run. That he's just kind of like an omniscient like character, kind of like the Spectre and whatnot too. But it's cool because he's just like, I love this. These are the highest gods in this universe. And there's that panel where he says, clearly, their conversation is not meant for my ears. My senses assaulted. I turn away. I was just like, wow, that's awesome.
It was too much for his brain to like take in or something.
Well, especially as a believer of God.
Oh, and that too, yeah. I mean, we've really brushed over this, the amount of biblical reference in this book. I mean, it's literally called Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
But
every page starts with pages from Revelations, or every issue. But I think that's cool. Well, he does mention that he thinks like God is not so much a person, but like a force in the universe. So I guess even this being revealed to him.
And I had a big gripe with this too, because this guy's supposed to be a Christian pastor.
Mm-hmm. That's what threw me off.
That is specifically a non-Christian idea.
Yeah.
Like if you are a Christian pastor, you believe in the divinity of Christ. And
do they say he's Christian, or does it say he's Catholic, or
I think there's a cross. I think there's a religious image. Well, he's teaching the book of Revelations. He's reading the Holy Bible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're not a pastor if you think that God is some
force.
And not to say that you couldn't be religious. You could be like a Buddhist, spiritual leader. I don't know what
that's where I would see it.
But in a Christian doctrine, no, you believe the gospel. That's the
God
point.
Is God,
you know what I mean? Yeah. So I thought that was kind of a weird. I don't know if it was like maybe this pastor is struggling with his faith a little bit, and he's come to think of a different thing, but like come to think of God in a different way. But it doesn't seem that way when he's still so heavily preaching the Bible in the book.
Well, it could be that way too. I mean, if you're in a world full of these gods, could it not be changed and altered at that point?
Yeah, but the way he talks about this, it doesn't sound like it's something he's just discovering right now. It sounds like this is part of his core beliefs.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's very true.
And we know, so that part kind of threw me off. I mean, that's just a tiny little detail, but I thought that was interesting that they would paint this guy that way when they could have chosen. There are many religions that recognize all gods. Mm-hmm. So, that could have been an option. Of course, it really gets into like, man, how does religion work in this universe that Superman exists?
Exactly. That's why it's what really
that's
throws
pretty
me
crazy.
off.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Well, back to floating dead things. We have Dead Man.
Is that what the skeleton guy's called?
Yeah, his name's Dead Man. He's all throughout. Roscoe, what do you do? Sorry, my dog is just being ridiculous. Like trying to chase a fly behind me. Dead Man is a pretty not so much significant character, I wouldn't say. Roscoe. Sorry.
Yeah.
But he's a character throughout the DC universe, and he does have some interesting whenever he comes into a story, it's always interesting seeing him. He's one of those. He was a again, a guy in a circus who did these insane acts. He was shot and killed, and he's trying to find the guy that killed him. And he can't rest until he finds the murderer. And he kind of realizes that he has another purpose in life, as somebody, who could roam into the realm of the dead, and he could go into other people's bodies. But he was a circus actor, and now he's someone that just floats around like the universes essentially. And that's why there's a line in here, I think it's in this first part, where it's I always like to travel. And just that one line stuck out to me because you just summed up Boston Brand, Dead Man, all in one sentence. Always liked, he was in the circus. He now travels between realms. It just, I could see the growth and the change in his, not the growth. I could see how his character wound up here.
I guess. I mean, I felt like this couple pages was a little unnecessary, and if anything, kind of like slowed down the story a little bit.
I could agree.
And I think there's a couple pages in almost every issue where I'm like, okay, the fan service is overtaking the necessity of the plot.
Yes, because they throw in so many characters. And I think that's a lot on Alex Ross, just wanting to put in his entire love for this huge universe.
Yeah.
You're right. Honestly, this could be gone. That was it apocalypse scene that could have been gone,
A couple things to keep it a little tighter. But, overall, though, I don't think the book ever overstays its welcome. I mean, it's only 4 issues.
Yeah.
I feel like the issues are a little bit longer than usual. Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, they're prestige formats. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was reading, I was like, this is a little bit lengthier than a regular 4 issues. But man, yeah, I mean, for the most part, great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get them like fighting in space, I guess, right? They're getting rid of asteroids that I was assuming were going to hit the Earth or something.
I think they're just hanging out talking.
Is that all that's going on? Because one of them is like lassoing asteroids, but I guess it's just for funs.
It's like if you're skipping rocks at a pond, they're in space skipping rocks. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I guess that's true.
So I love how he even lassos them together and puts it all into one asteroid to combine them.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. What else do we got here?
We go into Lex Luthor brainwashing Billy Batson, and it shows what Billy Batson is really conflicted because what superheroes have turned into, that's half of him, and what humanity is. And so he's using this creature. This creature is called Mr. Mind, and this is some golden age ideas and stuff. This little like caterpillar dude, and he has like a voice box in like the comics and cartoons. And he speaks through the voice box, but he's like this alien. I think he's an alien force that is just super smart, and he could create all this stuff. But he's using Mr. Mind to take over Billy Batson, and he's showing him, I guess, in the brainwashing what could have happened. Yeah, and there's a little Captain Carrot guy right there in panel number 2.
Oh yeah, there is.
I just thought that was funny. I just saw that.
That is funny.
But I like seeing the Dr. Frankenstein looking lab in Lex Luthor's background.
That is cool. Yeah, that is pretty creepy. And then we also get like Batman's kind of like manufacturing plant after that.
Yeah. I love how they have the bat kind of spying on him too as we lead into that plant.
Yeah. Because basically they've gotten Batman in as part of the human team, and that's their plan. They're going to make these robots so they don't need to worry about all these superhuman things. But at the same time, in the next few pages, we're also getting the discussion that like this prison thing's not going to last forever. Like the humans are going to need to make their move pretty soon. And that's what we're kind of building up. We're building up climax for issue 4 is what's going on.
Exactly.
That's a lot. Issue 3 is a lot of setup.
And then we see the Bruce's side, and then we have Lex Luthor's side on the opposite side of the table. And then we have that telepathic meeting between John Jones and what John Jones has become, Martian Manhunter. Yeah. And I think this is I think it's great they did this, because if John Jones was if Martian Manhunter was a character to be, doing stuff in the series, he's right up there with Shazam and Superman. So you have 3, huge fire powers up there. But Martian Manhunter, he's just broken. He opened his mind to the world, and it just destroyed him. Yeah.
Which is sad. Martian Manhunter's a cool dude.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed that character. Then we get to Justice League in space, and Superman's scanning the world by literally just looking out the window and making sure that they've either
Yeah.
indoctrinated or imprisoned everyone on the like all the superhuman beings.
Hmm.
Um, these guys are fighting because, well, no, wait. Before they argue, the Flash pulls out our pastor from this other plane of existence because he's so fast that he can travel between dimensions.
Yes, I thought that was a cool concept that he's
That is a
evolved
pretty
that
cool
much.
concept. I don't know why Flash is running that fast in that tiny little room, but we'll give it to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he pulls this
Yeah.
guy out, and then basically they want to know what's going on. This is like just this has to be crazy for everyone else in this book. They're just hanging out, and then this regular dude just shows up and tells them, well, basically at the beginning it sounds like he's just like rambling like an insane person.
Yeah, he's
Um,
freaked out because I'm sure he is,
he
you know,
wasn't ready
his
for this.
no, he's in space and now he's
Yeah,
surrounded by all these gods practically.
but he basically tells them what they see, and then we get news at the prison that they're breaking out, that there's
Mhm.
rioting going on. So Wonder Woman's instructing everyone to take care of this by any means necessary. Superman's like, what? We're doing this peacefully. Then they go to the UN because they have to have a meeting there. And the humans are even more so telling Superman, hey, this is our what does he say here? Inside a giant powder keg, Superman, the confidence and hope your reemergence engendered is fast eroding. Global
Hmm.
economy is still catastrophic. World trauma staggering. We will not risk another Kansas. I can promise you that. So they're telling him, dude, if this place blows up, like who even knows what's going to be happening here? It's just insanity. Like we can't have millions of people dying again.
Yeah.
Um, and then we kind of have Batman showing his hand after this too,
Yeah, I love it because
letting him know.
Batman
Yeah.
shows his hand at the same time with this too.
Mm-hmm. And he punches Billy in the face because he knows that this is when Batman calls him the wild card because Batman's
Mhm.
reading everyone. He knows how Superman's going to act. He knows what Lex Luthor's going to do, but he's not sure about this brainwashed Shazam who could just destroy everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, and he goes to try and like help him out. Let me see here, but he escapes because
Yeah.
Shazam. It's already too late. Shazam is ready to shoot lightning bolts at everyone. I thought the next panel was actually really cool when Wonder Woman's getting dressed for war.
Ooh, yes.
And this is that suit of armor that they're referencing in that Wonder Woman 84 movie that's coming
Yeah,
out.
exactly. That's why
It
there's
never
so much
comes
hype
out.
behind it. Is that we're getting that Kingdom Come armor, like live action, like twice in 1 year, in a sense, with Batman and
Yeah.
Crisis and then Wonder Woman. And I don't know, I've always admired the action figures that came out of this book because they did a whole line on them with the armor.
Ooh, that's
And
cool.
it's the one time I've wanted to pick up a Wonder Woman action figure because this armor is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, and she's got this sword that has magical properties that even cut Superman's finger
Hmm.
because she's going for business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
she's we don't all have heat vision, which is more or less what she tells him. And is this when it happens? Oh, well, basically the Justice League leaves, and in the half a second that Superman can fly faster than them, goes to Bruce and tells him what's going on, and says, "Hey, like I need your guys' help, or I need your help. We don't have time for this."
Well, right before that, that's the pinnacle of Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship, is that this is the breaking point between the two, and
Yeah.
how Superman's like trying to say peacefully, like we're gonna do this, and Wonder Woman's like, no, we're going for war, and she gives him that kiss. And I would typically dismiss a kiss like this, and if you just look at the artwork, I would have dismissed it, but the writing here, her lips
Mm,
brush his with the sound of marble scraping steel. That
yeah.
is awesome. It is a kiss completely devoid of passion. It is a final farewell. Like Mark Waid, dude,
Yeah, that's some good
awesome.
stuff.
That's just amazing. Yeah. Um, but yes, and we're into the Batman scene, which one of the coolest things again as well, because it's back to that Bruce and Superman arguing about what the right move is.
Yeah, of course.
And then instead of, again, I feel like the roles are reversed here. Instead of Batman just getting after Clark as the way he typically does, Superman
Mhm.
just shuts Batman up and just tells him like how it is and what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we have the classic, Bruce is saying like the wild card, and then Superman just takes off, and he's like, "So
Yeah.
that's what it's like."
So that's what that feels like. Yeah, that's a fun. I mean, that's a fun scene.
Yeah, yeah,
Whenever anyone can pull a Batman on Batman, that's a good time.
definitely.
So we get this fight, and I mean, this issue is just like the tease of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Them breaking out, it's about to happen, and then we see Shazam. And then issue 4 is really where we get what I feel like are the same 3 panels I've read in the last, 5 DC books. Just every person in DC fighting each other. But to be fair, a lot of these guys are the nobodies who are made for this.
What's
For
funny,
this book.
well, the very last page of issue 3 was Shazam standing over Clark. When I was a kid and I used to get Wizard magazines from like Albertsons or whenever I'd pick something up as like a child, I remember seeing this image and it just stuck with me. And I never knew where it came from until years later when I picked up this book. But as a kid, seeing Shazam standing over, and I didn't even know who Shazam really was at that point in my life. But just knowing that that's Superman and him standing over him, you're just like, something epic is going to happen if Superman is on the floor in front of someone. And then when I finally got to read this book, I was like blown away because I was like, this is going to be epic. And this next issue, you're right. I mean, one of my biggest things I despise is I'm sick of superheroes going against superheroes. Like I'm just fed up with it in the movies and the comics and everything, But honestly, this is the one time I will go yes, because all this armor, all this futuristic stuff, and it makes sense in this one why they're fighting, I feel.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, for me, I think Civil War really epitomizes that conflict. At least the best one I've read.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think this is just a criticism of all these big comic book publishers. And there's only so many stories you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have Batman and Superman. Yeah, they're going to fight sometimes. And yes, they're going to be bros sometimes. But ultimately their relationship dynamic, like we can't do that much with it.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a story we have. Batman's the rigid one. Batman's like the angry, moody one. And Superman's like, uppity and righteous.
Yeah.
And how are they going to disagree? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's see these two duke it out somehow. If not verbally, then physically,
So these guys are fighting, and then little do we know, but the American, I should say the civilians, I guess a human board, this government entity that we keep seeing in this book, they're going to send 3 bombers with nuclear weapons to blow up all of it.
This bomb shape is the same shape as the classic Superman ship when he crashes as a baby.
The bomb shape? Oh, yeah. Like the shape of the actual bomb?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And then in the bottom right corner, that's Mark Waid, Peter Tomasi, and one of the editors for the book.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
And even this guy, Wally not Wally whatever his name. He looks like Alex Ross, I always felt. The glasses and bald and whatnot. I gotta show you a picture. Yeah.
You know what? I've seen Alex Ross before. Yeah, it kind of does look like him.
Right.
Maybe it is. Maybe he's referencing himself. That's one for him. But some of these guys are like, we can't do this. We can't blow up our own country. And then they're like, well, if we either blow them up now, or this fight's going to get so bad that the whole world's going to be engulfed and destroyed. Which I don't know. Would that happen? like how the reason why it happened before is because Captain Atom was there, and he literally is an atom bomb.
And now they're forcing that.
Who else is there? Yeah, now they're doing it. Who else is there that's going to cause that? Like Wonder Woman could go in there with her sword and kill all of them, and then it would be over.
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, this was just a terrible idea. This really exacerbated the whole situation.
Well, it shows mankind's fear of what's going on, and their reaction. And I mean, just turning the page, seeing the stress, you feel the stress this guy is under. He goes back, he opens the blinds to see the 3 ships flying out. He's holding his eyes with the picture of his family behind him. And the next one with the Spectre and the Pastor, it says world's greatest dad on his mug. You see who this character is just through these images and how he's just like, what have I done? He's questioning himself just through these movements.
Well, he should be, because this is a dumb decision. This is like really dumb. This is super stupid.
This is the monkey wrench that was like, guys, Just let it
Yeah.
play out.
Have you ever seen the Animatrix, the animated prequels to the Matrix?
Years ago, I've been wanting to rewatch it
Okay.
for a while.
I was gonna say that's some like essential stuff, especially because like how what is that Batman one they did? Tales
Oh,
of the Dark
Gotham
Knight or
Knights.
something?
Gotham Knights.
Yeah, where they had all short stories with different artists.
It was in between it took place between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Animatrix is just a bunch of stories from the Matrix in various timeline, various spots of the timeline,
Hmm.
all done by different artists. But man, they have this one called the Second Renaissance, which is two parts, where it's like the origins of the Matrix and how the world changed that much. But yeah, and they're fighting these robots, and then that's their idea too. Let's nuclear bomb our own place. And it just, man, that never seems like the right idea, guys.
Ever.
Like,
Never been the
it's
right decision.
never been the right decision. Um,
Well, on the next page, I love it because, for one, this is the first time we see like Batman's armor like in
yeah,
full, and it's just
that
coming down.
where
And
he's actually Batman. Like up to this point, he's just been old Bruce in a suit. Now he's
mhm.
really Batman.
And he still has that like Darth Vader kind of look to the bottom of his. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
what it reminds me of. But also, they're coming out of Doctor Fate, and because he's just the helmet and the cape, and he doesn't
Mhm.
really have a body, and it reminds me a lot of the Umbrella Academy.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of this Batman design, to be honest. I think it looks a little bit like a child's toy. You know how and we've seen those before. Like for Batman the animated series, they put out that
Oh.
toy line, and it was just like snow Batman,
Yeah.
water Batman. That it looks like a Batman that would be in there.
Exactly.
Battle armor Batman, and it'd be a
Yeah.
commercial like some kid shooting a rocket out of his hand or something.
Honestly, maybe
Um,
that's why I like it, because it brings me to that childhood aesthetic of like having these ridiculously armored Batmans, and that's all I
Yeah.
used to have as a kid. You know?
Yeah, no one ever had just a regular Batman toy.
No,
it was always
they were
this
so
random.
hard to find.
Yeah, those are really hard to find. You can never find those. You get like orange Batman or something. Let me see. Oh well, and then we get into this fight scene, and they're gonna get overcome, and then straight up, they're like the riders of Rohan. You know what I mean? They show up. Batman and his crew shows up to like finish the fight.
Hmm.
But there's a little bit of disagreement here because Batman is still just as principled as Superman is. He doesn't want to kill people, and he's not happy that Wonder Woman's killing people, even though she saves his life. And they get into a struggle as
And
well.
I just love seeing Batman and Wonder Woman fight, because you don't see that, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's just such a cool, unique thing. And they're both armored up, and it's a bat versus an eagle. Well, yeah, I guess where they get that eagle symbolism from. Just because
Yeah,
of
I
their
guess that
armor,
makes
you
more
know?
sense.
And then you continue the fight with, you're seeing Shazam and Captain Marvel just go at it full force. But you see like what's going on in the background is what amuses me the most. Like over here, you have Dick Grayson. His helmet is like torn off. He's bleeding. I think that's what Red Tornado. You have another Flash just speeding around. Like it's interesting seeing
Yeah.
who's fighting who and
It's
how.
it's another one of these huge, and the only time they've ever really pulled this off in film is Endgame.
Oh yeah,
That's like if you've never read any of these books, that's the only thing I could say to visualize what some of these scenes look like in DC Comics is the end of Endgame where like everybody shows up. And it would have been kind of cool to see the DC films end in a Kingdom Come storyline.
Oh, it would have been great.
Yeah, but there's no way to do it now. I would say this is borderline unfilmable. Like,
Well,
we talked about Watchmen being unfilmable. This would be tough.
I've talked to Bruce Timm, the creator of Batman the Animated Series, and we were asking him about, what other adaptations would you like to do from the comics, and why hasn't there been a Kingdom Come one? Because it's one of the most popular graphic novels. And Tim was saying that, like, honestly, artistically, there's nothing that can match Alex's art. We'd have to really put some budget in for some crazy like CGI type of mechanics, but it would just strip away what makes the book so good as well, is that gorgeous artwork, and it's not something. It would be great to, I'm sure maybe when we're old men, we'll see this because they'll have the CGI down by then, and they'll have actors and directors doing DC movies. But I mean, I can never imagine seeing that suit on Batman. It's like seeing a Batman Beyond film right now. I don't think it would happen.
Oh, well, I think now would be the time more than any other time in history. Like in the 90s, a Batman Beyond film would have been impossible.
Oh yeah,
But
early
but
2000s. Yeah,
yeah, but now CGI is at that point where you could do a story like that.
I think they would
Um,
have to have that Marvel money to make that CGI look good, though.
oh yeah, and
Yeah,
DC could have had that money if they hadn't screwed up their whole film franchise at the beginning. But um,
I know.
I don't know. Like that would be so cool. I would love a Batman Beyond live action movie.
It'd be a
Um,
dream. Yeah, it's been 20 years since that show's been out. It's just
well,
crazy,
that's crazy too to think about how old that show is. I guess ultimately though we just got to see how this next line of DC films turns it around if they
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
A new Batman and everything. So
There's another line right here where Superman grabs Billy Batson after he said Shazam and he's in his regular form again. And it says, "Fingers that can fuse coal into diamond crawl across human bone." And I'm just like, Mark Waid, again, dude.
yeah, he's got great dialogue, man. He's got great dialogue. Let me see what's going on. Well,
Here comes the question. Superman puts it on Billy because Billy is half human, half superhuman. He's the only one out of all of them that can see the faults and the pros and the cons to each side. And he's like, you need to make a choice because I can do this. I can go up there and I could stop this bomb, but we know what's going to happen. Like, what are you going to do, Billy? Like, what in your power and the one that is morally obligated between being superhuman and being human, you could see both sides of the spectrum. What's going to happen? Like, who are you going to be? And even the pastor, he's just like, I can't make this choice. Like, everyone's frozen on like, what's the next move? Because this bomb is already falling on us and it's going to do one of two things,
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that moment where Billy redeems himself and he comes back to his senses and he says Shazam again, shoots up into the sky, pulls Superman down and sacrifices himself. Well, I mean, it's not that it's terrible because I mean, everyone still died, but he saved more lives than if it would have hit the ground.
This is where the plot part doesn't make any sense to me. Like as far as just devices go, because Shazam didn't save anything. He saved maybe like 7 people, and arguably, like it was Green Lantern's ring that protected them from a nuclear blast.
Yeah,
but you're telling me that 70 feet closer it wouldn't have happened? Like, how powerful is Green Lantern's ring compared to a nuclear weapon? It just seems he doesn't really stop the bomb at all. He blows it up, maybe a couple stories. Instead of landing where it was going to land, why not just grab the bomb and throw it into space? Like we all know is very possible for them to do.
Well, I mean, I'm also thinking about the idea of like they've dropped the bomb. They had all that dialogue. The bomb's right there.
Yeah.
And there's no time to like turn it around. There's no time to like do anything else but what he could do.
I mean, there was time when they were talking the whole time saying, hey, I have time to do this right now. Like, why wouldn't the instinct be, hey, let's just turn this bomb around and throw it into the sun? That part just seems so weird to me. Like,
because they're too caught up with each other. They're not. No one's thinking right. They're in the middle of that war battle.
I mean, he's got his face grabbed in his hand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know that Superman can fly from his satellite to Bruce Wayne's cave in half a second.
Yeah.
So there's that's not even like a reactionary time.
Well,
he could have just gotten rid of the bomb. But
it's also like Superman's kind of a jerk because you're just like, all right, I could do this, Billy, and I'm gonna die, or you can do it.
I guess, but why would Superman even die though? That doesn't make any sense either. Like,
I mean, I'm assuming
from diverting the bomb. No, but that's what's suggested in the book too, though. That's what I'm saying. That part doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm also not sure what Billy's death really means now. It wouldn't have been any different if he had just stayed there and not done anything. The outcome would be the same.
Well, I think in that case, he gave anyone time to stop something. He gave Green Lantern a moment and something that Green Lantern wasn't there. I mean, if the bomb would have fallen, everyone would have died. And if the bomb would have hit, there's an explanation. They talk about it in a few pages too. Let me see.
Well,
I also want to talk about.
While you're looking for that, though, the bomb hits and everyone's like vaporized into just skeleton.
You see Blue
in a
Beetle's
great panel.
skeleton. You see Cyborg just melted. He's just like one statue,
Yeah.
and Superman is just destroyed because he failed.
He failed. He's upset. He gets all red-eyed. Like his heat vision's about to burst out of his eyes.
Yeah, he's angry. Yeah.
And then he flies off to go kill everyone. And then again, it's like, okay, this isn't Superman. Like, you're telling me this broke Superman to the point where he was going to commit mass murder and just murder all these people who had nothing to do with this, really?
I mean, Superman's been broken since the start of this series, so I'm not even surprised.
Yeah, but the whole time he's upholding the value of human life.
Mm-hmm.
To turn Superman on a total 180 and say, now he's going to go murder people because the bomb was too far. Lois was the only person he cared about in the whole world. But no, this is also going to, this is greater to push him back his breaking point. Even though all of his closest friends aren't dead. Most of the people who are dead are like metahumans and, come on, C-list superheroes.
Well, I mean, a guy that never failed again.
I guess. I just don't buy it. I just
no, dude. I could totally buy it.
He would kill himself before he would kill anyone else.
No.
Why would he go and take it out on hundreds of innocent people?
Because they're the ones who caused it. They're the ones who took this action into it.
Like 10 people in a room decided this, though, is what I'm saying. And then on top of all that, this pastor comes out and convinces Superman not to do it.
Yeah.
Which, if he's that blood raged, if you could even sell that idea, then there's no talking him down after that.
Well, I mean, it's Superman. He's like, dude, stop. Like, remember who you are, what you are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But Superman doesn't even need to see that whole part doesn't make sense. Like, the motivation that Superman's like, man, I'm going to murder everyone now is already crazy. And then to just 2 pages later say, no, it's not going to happen. And that part's super muddled as far as character motivation. You can't convince me that Superman's going to commit mass murder. When the entire book, he's been like, the sanctity of human life is the most important thing. Well, and I've learned that. He in this second, he's forgotten everything he's learned the whole book, and decides to just murder people instead of going after Lex Luthor or anyone who that would make more sense. Mm-hmm. No, instead he's gonna heat vision the door shut and then bring a whole building down on hundreds of people and kill them all. I don't know, man. That doesn't seem like Superman at all.
Well, I mean, this whole book wasn't Superman.
I think up till now it's believable.
Mm-hmm.
Like a stretch. The Lois Lane thing was a stretch, but you could still keep him reeled in. Okay, Superman's living in isolation. His main link to humanity is gone. But then when we come back, we get this conflicting thing where he's like, no, the sanctity of human life. We have to protect everyone. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, Superman obviously didn't think that strongly.
Well,
and now it's flipped again. Like it's just I think it's an inconsistent character writing is for Superman.
No, I think it totally works because he was broken from the start. He's trying to bring back his morals, and he's being shown time and time again that his way isn't working. And that's broken him again because his way didn't work again because none of this would have happened if they would have listened to him.
And if that's a story you're telling, then at the end, Superman kills the whole world. But in this story, we have this pastor that he's talked to for 1 minute, and then he comes back and brings him back from all of that.
Well, that's the power of that pastor character. That's like why he's there, is to remind Superman who he is.
That's just silly. That's just silly.
We're talking about superheroes. This whole thing is silly.
No. Hang on.
The whole thing.
That is the oldest. Oh, Brandon, that is the oldest bad argument ever against.
Well, it's true. Like it.
Well,
I
in
think
Star
totally
Wars,
works.
they're space wizards. You know what I mean? In a universe, there are rules. Even if the universe is ridiculous, like Superman,
mm-hmm.
there are rules, and I just can't see. I don't understand how Superman goes from total social isolation to everyone in the world must be protected to I'm going to murder all these people back to exactly how I was at the beginning of the book. And now it's like totally flipped because the Superman we get at the end, he's like removed again. He's now just a member of society,
mm-hmm.
but he's not, Superman the way that we see him. I don't know, dude. I just don't think it makes any sense. Because
you're overthinking it, honestly.
I don't think, we have a podcast where we critique comic books. Like the point is that like the writing in the book's really good. I just think the character motivation's been a little bit muddied. Yeah. I don't think it's that clear. I don't know. I just don't. I don't see the difference. And if Superman was that crazy about it, then he should have stopped the bomb. Like the whole thing doesn't make like he could have just pushed him away, and before he even said Shazam, flown into the air, grabbed the bomb, turned it around, and throw it out into space, and that wouldn't be a problem for Superman. I mean, Wonder Woman and Batman took out the first 2 bombs. So
Hmm.
Superman would be able to do this or freeze it with his cold breath or whatever. Um,
No, he's too caught up with that battle. He doesn't see the bomb until right when he has Billy.
but you
And then
can't do
after
that when your
that,
hero has every power in the world. He doesn't hear the bomb. He doesn't like hear the explosion of the other two ships or something like that. There's no communication between any of them. But they have enough time to say, "Hey, we have time to react to this. We have this moment." They have enough time to have a conversation about how to stop the bomb. There was more than enough time to stop the bomb,
well,
and
that's
then
the point
figure
where
out
they
whatever
bring
else is going
that
on.
question of judgment upon him
I
and
guess that's
his
true,
choice.
but it's flawed because obviously it's better to get rid of the bomb than kill people.
Hmm.
If that is Superman's choice, why would he turn away from that again? If his whole thing this whole time has been about peaceful means,
Yeah,
why wouldn't that be his prerogative instead of, okay, Billy, let's have a philosophical argument right now about who should we save these people? Should you know what I mean? You can have that
because
conversation after it's been made for you.
well, Superman's conflicted again, and even with his conversation with Billy, he talks about his conflict of like, I don't even know if I should do this.
Yeah, but again, why? Why is that super? What are the options there? I don't know if I should stop all of us from being murdered right now by a bomb, or if
Well,
I should let half of us get murdered in this fight that's going on right now.
well,
It
because at
seems
this
like
point
an
he
easy
questions like,
choice.
why are heroes even there? Why are we important? Like, what are we doing that's good at this point? Should we all just die? Should we just end it for all of us?
So
But
then
the
it happens.
person,
So then it happens, and he's enraged and wants to kill everyone. So even if you go through that, the motivation for the next scene doesn't make sense. If that's
well,
honestly Superman's thought, maybe we deserve to die. Then why did you go on a killing spree and murder everybody if that's
because
what he was settled with? You know what I
like
mean?
you said, like, I mean, he had that time to do it and he failed again.
But he didn't fail, is what you're saying. He's arguing about should this happen or should it not happen.
Hmm.
If that's really the conversation he's having with himself, then there's no reason to be this upset afterwards. Maybe to be upset at yourself and to
Hmm.
fly off into the sun and kill yourself or do whatever. But I don't know. This is so muddy to me, man. And I agree with you. The writing is great as far as like dialogue is really on point. But this is what I meant earlier when I was like, I think Marvel's is a better book because the ending and the tone of it is clear. And in this one, it's like Superman is just flip flopping all over the place. He's flip flopping so many times that this last conflict doesn't make any sense, and it's what they're building up to.
Yeah.
And not to mention that Spectre had little to do with anything going on in this book. Ultimately, they save Superman at the end by having the pastor talk to him. But this is something that the pastor told Spectre they had to do. So
Hmm.
Spectre wasn't even intending on coming here. This wasn't
Yeah.
even the decision that was supposed to be made. I don't know, man. Maybe I'll get a lot of hate for this. I know this is like a huge book that a lot of people love, but the motivations and the plot lines, a lot of them aren't resolved very well in this last issue. A lot of it looks really cool and things blow up in huge, awesome moments, for Alex Ross to paint.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I don't buy it. And if we disagree, that's fine. We can have disagreements. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I just,
I know you love this thing like entirely, but
yeah, to
yeah.
me, as Superman as a character and what he stands for and the conflicts and his ups and downs, I think it makes sense. And I think him freaking out after he failed again and having to take a step back and breathe and being pulled back like that is just like, dude, I've messed up. And that's why I'm going to seclude myself because I don't belong here, because clearly my values and what I think doesn't work. And I've tried to do it and I've tried to do it over and over again, and it's not going to happen. And my choices are what's causing a lot of this.
But then what happens? They just do Superman's thing again. They do the same thing. Like at the end, I guess they put Green Lantern on a board, and that's what they learned from this situation. But ultimately, we are restored to how it was before. All the metahumans are dead.
Mhm.
It's more or less what Wonder Woman would have wanted. But now they're making decisions together, which is cool. But what are the decisions they're making? Like, oh, some intergalactic monsters come. We'll take that one. You know what I mean? Obviously.
Yeah. But it's the first time that's ever happened. Like now that Oa's not around anymore, and I guess New Oa is the city above them, and that's where
Yeah.
the people of Oa and any other Green Lanterns are at. That's now they're part of the world because they're watching the world, and that's never been.
I guess that's true. But Superman's always been part of the world, and he's always worked with the government. You know what I mean? Like,
He's worked with the world. He's tried to work with the government. And that's another conflicting thing too, is that Superman doesn't adhere to just like the United States.
yeah, I guess unless it's like a certain time period, I think, right? Like
Yeah, like
there's
the
some
30s or World War
which
II and
also
stuff like that.
gets complicated because there's so many different interpretations of a lot of these characters. You know what though? I would like if you've read Kingdom Come, I want to know what you think about this rant here. I'm not sold. Did I miss something? Am I wrong? Do you agree?
I just don't think you know the superheroes and their stories and what they mean as much. I think if like
I don't know. I don't for Superman. What am I missing about Superman? Like he's the easiest character in the world to understand.
yeah, but like knowing that he's what everyone like is tries to be. He's the ultimate role model.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, I get that too. I mean, all that is that's all that's just Superman. You know what I mean? But what I'm talking specifically is his core values that he states over and over in the book and then betrays.
because he's conflicted. He's a broken guy. Like he's failed so hard. He's failed where his life has destroyed him. Have
I
you
don't
ever
know,
just
man.
like failed and your life has just been destroyed? That's what he's at. That's where we pick him up and that's where we leave him again.
That's
It
where he's
happens
at,
back
but
to
then
back.
the character arc goes up and then it goes back down, but then it shoots right back up again. It's just inconsistent character arcs. There would have been a way to write this where there was some kind of redemption, but ultimately we end up with a Superman who does nothing, who really had no like changes on the outcome other than he stopped himself from murdering a group of people, which just seems so anti-Superman, no matter what the scenario is.
Yeah, it's very anti-Superman, which is why
Yeah.
it's so like insane that he's even doing it.
Exactly. It's insane. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Um, well, we're not going to agree about this. We could go back and forth for 45 minutes and make the same points. But basically, like, we get an epilogue after this. Batman, they rebuild Wayne Manor and then turn it into a hospital.
It looks like it. I like how they
That's-
turned it into the white as well. White.
That is cool. There's a lot of stuff about Batman redeeming himself and being all in white. But it's like, why did they have to make Wayne Manor the hospital? Like, don't they have a hospital? You know what I mean? China built hospitals in days, Brandon. Did they have to build a giant mansion first? Have it all decked out?
Well,
and
he's
then
not
turn
using
into a
it.
hospital?
He's like not the one like being there. It's just him like doing like a community service type of thing. It's like
Yeah,
using the
I
Javits
get
Center
that,
for
but
beds.
But then his basement's the Batcave? Like, why not just build a hospital in another place and then build your house? That just seems like such an unnecessary thing to put both of them together. Like, oh, I have to rebuild Wayne Manor and I have to make it a hospital where I also rehabilitate Lex Luthor and a bunch of villains.
Yeah, but he's not really using any of that stuff anymore. He's just manufacturing these things. He's not Batman anymore. He's not like sulking in the back
Yeah,
anymore.
I mean, that's true, but it's still his home. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He turned
I don't
into
know-
something for good instead of it just wasting there.
I guess that's true. But it was already destroyed, so they had to rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
So couldn't they have more effectively rebuilt a hospital instead of having all these beds in a giant hallway in Wayne Manor? That's all I'm saying. Like, it just seems impractical. Let's rebuild a manor and convert it into a hospital, as opposed to let me use my unlimited wealth to build hospitals and then I'll live in a shack or something.
Well, I mean, it's
if I-
cooler seeing
if I want to.
the mansion turned into something. I mean, of course,
It
there's always
is.
other options, but it's like the better option out of all of them.
The best option is build a hospital. I mean, I feel like this is just, again, like Alex Ross fan service. I have to show Wayne Manor glowing in white now to signify that this book is wrapping up. Wonder Woman gets her crown back, which we didn't even talk about her being decrowned. But the Amazonians took her royalty right away from her because she was too passive and not battle hardy enough. Or if anything, Wonder Woman learns that there is a balance between it.
Yeah.
So if anything, like, Wonder Woman has a very well written arc where she shows up broken from losing everything. Now she's broken. She's lost everything in the world. She's not murdering people willy-nilly. You know what I mean? She puts it into being a soldier. And she also loses just as many people as Superman does, all these close, dear friends. And her reaction, again, is not, let me get this sword and chop out, like, innocent people. Like, somehow she's totally level-headed about it, even though she's lost literally her entire world. She's banned from Amazonia, or from Thermoscaia. What is it? Themyscira?
Themyscira.
Themyscira, yeah. But she's appointed again, which is
Mhm.
pretty nice. I think she deserves to be back. Um, we get that quick shot of Green Lantern on the thing. Then we get a very like France after D-Day shot of Superman burying all these tombstones
Yeah.
that are all identical. It looks just like and I was just watching Saving Private Ryan yesterday, which is like the same beginning and ending of that Normandy. I can't think of the word right. Cemetery, the Normandy cemetery and like memorial. But I thought that looked so similar. And they have a couple things about like removing radiation. She gives him some glasses
I love
to
that.
say, hey, you're back. I thought that was a nice moment too.
Yeah, that brings back the Clark back into Superman.
And then he's got this giant plow that Superman is like taking it on himself to restart agriculture, which is funny. I don't know. Like, I just think that's funny. It's such a practical way of Superman to contribute.
Yeah, go back to that farm boy essence.
Yeah, and I can do the work of thousands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can really make a difference here.
And then
so that makes a lot of sense.
The 1 year later part. Oh wait, we have the final thing between Jim Corrigan where he reveals himself for the first time.
Yeah.
And he feels like human again for the first time after being cold and looking down and not really having any tied emotions to anything. He's actually showing one part of humanity.
Yeah. And that's nice too. We get a nice little summary. And I also thought it was a nice touch at the beginning of the book. His church is like empty and there's like a couple people there. And then at the end, I guess he is renewed and his church is renewed as well. So I thought that was nice. But the 1 year later, our little like epilogue at the end of this book is really the coolest thing in this whole book, I think.
Yeah,
like,
it's my favorite part.
Yeah, these like 8 pages are awesome because we get to see the superheroes interact as just people.
Well, the first panel, this dude's dressed up as Superman and he has that ridiculous long hair.
It's so gross.
Just tells you how bad Superman's long hair was. Like that's what
it looked like. They're roasting him right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then Batman shows up. It's like Wonder Woman and Superman. They come to that same diner that we talked about at the beginning. That's Planet Hollywood, but for superheroes. And then Batman shows up and they're having dinner and they're all talking about what they've been up to and all that stuff and commemorating the day. I just love how frustrated Batman is. Like all the dishes have these ridiculous names after superheroes. And he's like, I just want a steak. He's like, well, do you want the what do they say? The man of beef? He's like, no, I just want a steak and I want it well done. And then they bring it to him wrong too. And it's Robin too. Their waitress is Robin, which is even funnier. I think it's a girl, is it? Or it might be a guy. No, it's a guy, I think.
Oh, there's a Carrie Kelly Robin outfit in here too. It's somewhere
in the background
from Dark Knight Returns. Batman's, I mean, everything, even their drinks, what they order is so perfect. It's water's fine, milk, coffee, and keep it coming. Like that is so. Their drinks just define them as characters.
Yeah, that's their 3 drinks for sure. And then we get the big reveal, and this is kind of like, man, this was like a big twist, I guess, from the normal thing. Because isn't it Wonder Woman and Batman who usually end up together, like in most stories?
Yeah, from what I've seen, yeah.
And this time we have Superman and Wonder Woman. They're together. They're going to have a baby, and they want Batman to be the godfather because they're going to bring into the world some kind of super being. And they realize the importance of having that human connection there, that they don't understand the world like a normal human does. And who better than the world's, smartest man, greatest detective, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And also that their approaches are just so different, that their opinions on things are so crazy that they want Batman to be there to help, guide their new leader.
I even love how like Bruce is like, I haven't been the best parent. I don't know if you guys have looked at my track record. Like,
yeah. Kid's probably going to end up like beaten to death with a pole or something.
Well, on the same panel where they order their drinks, in the background, the guy with the glasses and the goatee, that's Paul Dini. And next to him is Bruce Timm.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a bunch of others I didn't name, but there's comic book creators. There's Jerry and Joe Shuster. There's like the creators of Superman. Siegel's in here, all sorts of stuff.
Well, check this out. Look at the last page. As they're walking out, they pass by our pastor and Spectre, and look who's sitting on Spectre's right.
Oh, I did not see that.
And there he is. There's our character from Marvel's, just in time for the last 3 panels of the book.
And you know what? The very last second to last panel. There's the first issue of Fun Comics, which was DC Comics' first publication, and
Oh,
the
how
first
cute.
issue of Wiz Comics, which was Shazam's first appearance.
Yeah. Well, that's it, man. We've read it. We've done Kingdom Come. It's here, and it's gone.
So happy. This is the book I've been wanting to do since we started this.
Really, I mean, I think it's really, really good. I think, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to say the book is bad. I feel like people are going to be angry at me, but I think there are just some huge inconsistencies in here. It's just as far as writing a plot goes, and like arcs of characters, just on the super basic level. I think the actual dialogue is really good, and I think it's a really, really good book. For me, though, I would say I preferred Marvel's just a little bit. This is leagues better than Earth X. Like,
almost anything is leagued better than Earth X.
Yeah,
That was like one of probably, I can't think of another story we read as bad as Earth X.
Before Watchmen.
I would put it there. I'd put it there.
Yeah, it's around that. I mean, Before Watchmen might be the worst thing we've ever read, because some of it I legitimately didn't even read. That's how bad it was. I was like, I'm not reading this anymore. But yeah, man, Kingdom Come. This is good stuff. This might be my favorite DC story we've read so far. I mean, other than Watchmen, obviously. Watchmen is,
Oh, and I guess other than Miracle Man, I want to say.
Ooh, I did really like Miracle Man. Oh, you know what? I did like some of those Batman stories we did too, man. Hush was really good. But as far as like the whole cast, you know what I mean? Everyone's going up and tossing down. This is good stuff. And I could see so much where like DC is, for positive and negative, have kind of like recycled themes from this book.
Oh yeah.
And recycled storylines. But it's cool to read the source of it. That's I think is really exciting.
I'm really curious because I know there's two like kind of sequels to this one. There's The Kingdom by Mark Waid. I think even Grant Morrison had some stuff in it. I have it. I've never read it, but it shows like Magog and all these dead Supermen from different universes are around him. And then issue 2 has the Trinity kind of flying in the air. So I'm curious on that. And then Jeff Johns was doing Justice Society of America. And even Alex Ross came back for the covers for this one. But it is called Thy Kingdom Come. Yeah, I have the graphics, but I haven't checked them out yet. But I wanted to read this before I do any of these type of sequels of any sort, because I'm really, after all these years, I got to know what they do with this Kingdom Come Superman. Because the way they portrayed the Superman ever since then is a dark, grim, like almost injustice type of Superman. So I don't know if that carries off of these sequels. Because here, like you say, he goes back and he's just an isolated, like happy guy. He stops everything. And for him to pick it back up, I'm curious what would cause that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you should do it for next week's pull list. Just read them this week, and then you can let us in on it. Well, speaking of pull list, though, Brandon, did you have anything for us?
I took a break from all things reading.
And really?
No video games last week. I was on my spring break. I just was occupied myself with other stuff. I've read Kingdom Come and I've watched Clone Wars. I'm on season 3 now. That's about it. I have nothing for a pull list for once.
So what have you been doing then?
Oh, dude, I mean, I still have just stuff catching up on with other projects. I have
okay.
I haven't been able. It sucks because I had to sign something and not talk about it. But the universe that we're creating and developing, that's going underway right now.
Cool.
And we're working on that second script right now. Other than that, it's just been kind of figuring out things with the quarantine and helping the family and whatnot.
My laptop's about to die and I left my charger downstairs, so I'll make my pull list pretty quick. Animal Crossing, still going strong, still amazing. Reading wise, man, I don't know if I've read anything other than what we've been reading for the channel. A lot of World War II, man. I mean, it's so much World War II. And I'm just going to highlight one that I watched yesterday, and I haven't seen it since I was like 13 or something. And that's Grave of the Fireflies, which is an anime movie by Studio Ghibli that was adopted after a real memoir of this boy and his little sister struggling after Japan was hit by the nuclear bomb. and what that looked like from the Japanese perspective. And that is oh gosh, dude,
Wow.
that is a powerful story. And the movie is just so well done. I would love to read the memoir because I bet that would just be so much more real. I think it's interesting to tell such a gritty and real story through anime. It just seems like such a counterintuitive idea. But man, it's done successfully, and that is a good one. And so different than, like, Studio Ghibli is just known for all these magical, like Ponyo and Spirited Away. My neighbor Totoro. It's like all these cute, adorable stories.
All these stories I cannot watch. I've tried doing those, and I just cannot do that.
Dude, Grave of the Fireflies is something else. Maybe you should try that. It's very different tone, but you gotta be ready for the tears. Well, man, I mean, that's it for me.
That's it.
Ooh, Resident Evil 3. Very cool so far. I've only played a little bit of it.
Oh, nice. I haven't picked up Dune. I was doing KOTOR 2 for a little bit.
It's not as strong as the first one. I mean, it's fun. It's still good, but
yeah, it's not as captivating from the start. The first level, being on that ship, the oil station thing, it just drags so hard. But that's it. I've just been working on a lot of writing. I finally get to focus on that a bit more, so that's been great. Yeah.
That is nice.
We do have I'm doing some bonus episodes this week too, so they'll be released. We're doing me and my doppelganger friend Brandon, which I'm excited to talk about our story and how we met and all of that on our episode tomorrow. We're going to record it tomorrow. But we're doing Venom Volume 1 by Donny Cates. And then I'm doing another episode after that, part of the Young Animal universe, the really weird psychedelic stuff. I'm doing it with my friend Casey. We're doing Eternity Girl. So there's going to be a lot of extra content coming out in the next couple of weeks.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So attacking some of those weirder, bizarre stories for sure. Yeah.
Right on.
But that's it.
That's it for today.
This was an epic episode.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad we got to debate this.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That was fun.
But cool. We'll tune in next, guys. Thanks for hanging, David.
Yeah, man.